Chapter 5707. The commotion quickly alerted the organizer. For men in security uniforms quickly ran over and shouted at Languza, "Stop! What are you doing? This is murder!" "Languza, stop for a second." Lin ordered indifferently. Languza agreed quickly and threw the five guys back in front of Lin. When Igratapovich saw the miserable state of his five men, he immediately trembled all over. The bodyguard who went to help him was also secretly afraid. He thought to himself, "Fortunately, I didn't go over, otherwise I would also be in such a miserable state." The four security guards ran over and saw the limbs of the five men on the ground. They were completely broken, their faces turned pale, and they pulled out their guns to point at Lin and the others. Lin smiled and didn't care about the guns at all. He said calmly, "These five friends said that they wanted to cooperate and display the effects of our Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's products. Of course, we have to fulfill their wish. Please take a closer look." After saying that, Lin took out 5 third-rank Great Huan pills and signaled Languza to give them to the 5 unlucky bastards. These third-rank Great Huan pills were useless to cultivators, especially those who were above the foundation establishment stage. However, to ordinary people, it was no different from an immortal pill. After a few minutes, the 5 men's arms started to heal miraculously. Everyone was shocked. "Your booth has violated the rules of this conference. We have to disqualify you. Now, we are going to kick you out completely. It's best if you can cooperate." Although the 4 security guards felt that this miracle was unbelievable, it didn't change their minds. One of them announced their decision to Lin coldly. "Disqualify me? Get kicked out on the spot." Lin frowned. He didn't expect this result. Igor Radapovich laughed loudly. He said in a muffled voice, "Hurry up and beg me. I can give you a chance." After being slapped by Lin Igor Radapovich didn't dare to be too arrogant. Although he was still a little angry, he didn't dare to approach Lin and talk to him anymore. Lin couldn't be bothered with this idiot. He sent a telepathic message to Shui Jianfeng, "Get your people from the Sacred Alliance to settle this. If you can't settle this in 3 minutes, I will deal with you." Since the Sacred Alliance was so powerful that they could influence the organizer of this conference, Lin naturally had to order Shui Jianfeng around. It was like making use of trash. Shui Jianfeng, who was treated as trash, was shocked when he heard Lin Yi's voice. However, it wasn't strange anymore since it happened to Lin Yi. Although he didn't know what Lin Yi was doing, Shui Jianfeng wasn't willing to help Lin Yi. However, Shui Jianfeng's life was in Lin Yi's hands. No matter how unwilling he was, he had to do things for Lin Yi. Shui Jianfeng thought that he might be able to use this chance to escape. He kept the item that exposed him and left the house. There wasn't anyone outside. Shui Jianfeng searched through 2 rooms before he found someone from the Sacred Alliance. He ordered him to go to the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's display cabinet to make sure that there wasn't any damage. The person from the Sacred Alliance didn't understand. The Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group was their enemy. Why would he help them solve their problem? If their problem was big enough, wouldn't it be the Sacred Alliance's chance? However, Shui Jianfeng was sent by the Sacred Alliance. His background was shocking. So, this person didn't dare to ask too much. Who knew what the higher-ups were thinking? He was just a small character. He should just listen to orders. After respectfully agreeing to Shui Jianfeng's request, this person from the Sacred Alliance ran to the front. At the same time, he used his phone to contact the organizer of this conference. Shui Jianfeng thought that since Lin couldn't leave now, it was a good opportunity for him to escape. Since he had already gotten the special edition of Dr. Kang's Golden Creation, He directly forwarded it to the glasses doctor. There was no point in staying. Good job. Go back to the resting room and wait. I'll look for you later. Xue Jianfeng was just about to sneak out when Lin Yi's telepathic voice rang in his ears. Xue Jianfeng didn't dare have any more thoughts and could only obediently go back to where he was and drink his wine. At Miracle Dr. Guan's booth, the people from the Sacred Alliance didn't appear directly. They were watching the situation from afar. They already told the organizer of the conference not to cause trouble for the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. Now, the 4 security guards immediately received an order from the higher-ups to apologize to the other party. They couldn't cause any dissatisfaction. The 4 people were stunned. Luckily, the order was transmitted through the earphones. If it was transmitted through the walkie-talkie, these 4 people wouldn't be able to live anymore. They would be humiliated to death. Ha 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 ha, I was just joking. Looks like you guys haven't gotten used to our sense of humor yet. That's a pity. My friends from afar, I apologize for our joke just now. I hope you guys won't be unhappy. The face of the security guard who wanted to expel the Miracle Dr. Guan Medicine Group changed. He suddenly laughed loudly and put away his gun at the same time. The other 3 weren't idiots. They just received the order and saw that the leader found an excuse, so they laughed and said that it was just a joke. As for the gun, they naturally put it away. Everyone, please look over here. The products of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group are definitely the best in the world. Our organizing committee spent a lot of effort to invite them here. The effect of the medicine is enough to prove it. My friends who need it, please seize this opportunity. The security guard turned around and immediately advertised the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. It was as if the tension just now was really just a joke. Lin Yi smiled coldly at their performance. He didn't say anything. It seemed like the Sacred Alliance had a lot of influence here. Just a phone call was enough to make these security guards slap themselves in the face and still have to smile. Kang Xiaobo and the others felt strange. But since Lin Yi didn't say anything, they wouldn't say anything. Although they didn't understand the details, it wasn't a bad thing. They just let these security guards perform. Chapter 5708. If it was possible, Igor Radapovich would have killed them and told them that it was just a joke. Can't they have a sense of humor? The 4 security guards were cheering for the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group for a while, but when they saw Lin Yi and the others staring at them coldly, they couldn't help but smile awkwardly and turn to Igor Radapovich. After all, he wasn't someone they could offend. Young Master Igor Radapovich, this isn't something we can decide. Let's leave this place first. These Easterners have a powerful background. Can you go back and discuss this with someone else? The head of security bowed and apologized to Lin Yi before walking over to Radapovich's side and begging softly. If Igor Radapovich didn't want to give up, they would be the ones in a difficult situation. However, after seeing how powerful these Easterners were, he didn't think that Igor Radapovich would be stupid enough to fight them head-on. These young masters were good at stabbing people in the dark. If they could handle it head-on, they could do it. If they couldn't, they would choose to attack from the back. Radapovich glared at Lin Yi furiously. Half of his face was still swollen, and all his teeth had fallen out. It was a huge impact on his handsome image. There would be reporters paying attention to the exhibition, and if it weren't for the fact that it was only the beginning and the reporters weren't in position yet, he'd probably be on the headlines tomorrow with this face. Kid, Igor Radapovich, will remember you. As long as you're still in Europe, you'll fall into my hands one day. Be careful. Let's go. Radapovich fiercely left with his bodyguards after uttering a few harsh words. Igor Radapovich was actually shocked by the Huan pill that Lin Yi took out. Broken bones healed in such a short time, and he could barely walk. It was a miracle medicine, If it was possible, he wanted to find a way to collect some. It could save his life in a critical moment. What he didn't know was that although Lin Yi didn't care about the Great Recovery Pill, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company really didn't sell it. Boss, are we going to let them go just like that? These idiots actually dare to threaten boss. How about I follow them and kill them? Languza wasn't having fun, so he came over and asked in a low voice. Lin Yi waved his hand and said, "Forget it, they are all ordinary people. You really have time. Let them go. What can a few ants do?" If it was someone who posed a threat, Lin Yi would, of course, eliminate the danger first. But this Povich guy, no matter how much he jumped around, he wouldn't be able to affect Lin Yi. Forget about Lin Yi. Even if it was Su Shirhan, they wouldn't be a threat. After all, Su Shirhan was a top-notch master in the common world. A normal army might not even be her opponent. These small fries, what was there to worry about? Languza smacked his lips and thought to himself, trash is still meat. Unfortunately, boss won't allow it, so I can only let them off this time. After Igurapovich left, Su Shirhan sang another song and regained her popularity. She also comforted the fans who were beaten up and left the stage. The voluntary help ended there. Next, it was Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi's business. Su Shirhan wanted to spend more time with Lin Yi. Plus, Sun Jingyi wasn't a stranger to her, so they started chatting behind the stage. Although Su Shirhan didn't go on stage anymore, she was enough to attract more and more fans. The Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's booth was almost packed. Luckily, Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi were masters, so they didn't let people rush in. But it couldn't go on like this, because no one cared about the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's things. Everyone only had Su Shirhan in their eyes. It seems like it's not a good thing to be too popular. Lin Yi smiled and said to Su Shirhan. In his heart, he already wanted to leave with them. After all, there were so many people around, it was hard to talk properly. Sun Jingyi seemed to know Lin Yi's thoughts and suggested, "Why don't we leave here first? Anyway, Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi are here. The exhibition shouldn't be a problem. Sister Shirhan, staying here will affect the normal operation of the booth." Su Shirhan stuck out her tongue cutely and smiled. "Then I'll leave. Brother Lin, where are we going to eat?" Languza's eyes lit up before Lin Yi could say anything. There was no way he could stop the keyword eat from entering his ears. "Boss, let's go eat. There's nothing fun here. It's better to eat." If they could fight here, Languza could barely stay for a while longer. But Lin Yi didn't let him fight, so his only fun was to eat. Of course, after eating, his only fun would be to buy clothes. Since the Sacred Alliance wouldn't come looking for trouble, Lin Yi didn't need to stay here anymore. He turned to Languza and said, "Bring them to find a place to eat. I still have something to do. I'll come back later. Protect them." Languza's face was full of smiles. He patted his chest and promised, "Don't worry, boss. I'll protect them well. The place to eat will definitely satisfy you. If it's not good, come find me." Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. "If it's not good, then find you to eat it all? That's to your liking." Sun Jingyi and Su Shirhan didn't have any objections. Lin Yi had things to do. They wouldn't stop Lin Yi from leaving. So after saying goodbye to Kang Xiaobo and Su Shirhan, they left the booth. Lin Yi casually set up a divine sense barrier. With his current divine sense, it wasn't hard to hide from cultivators of the same level or higher, let alone ordinary people. It didn't attract the attention of the fans at all. After Su Shirhan walked out of the door, the fans didn't even realize that their goddess had already left. It was even easier for Lin Yi to leave. In a flash, he was already out of the fans' encirclement. He was going to talk to Xue Jianfeng again. He wanted to see if he could get more information from him. Most importantly, he wanted to know the core members and the location of the base. Chapter 5709. Yo, if it isn't Lin, I didn't expect to see you here. What's wrong? You couldn't survive in that place anymore, so you came back here? A dark male voice sounded beside Lin. Linny paused and turned around. It was Kang Guifeng's son, Kang Xiaolong. This guy used to call himself Xinyan's fiancé and had a lot of dealings with Lin Yi. He was far more talented than his cousin, Kang Mingming, but in the end, that idiot Kang Mingming was doing much better than Xiaolong. Lin Yi didn't bother greeting this old acquaintance. He only looked at him coldly and turned around. Scram, I don't have time for you. Xiaolong laughed and pinched the light purple tie around his neck. He looked at Lin Yi with disdain. Did I hit a sore spot? Are you angry now? We're all friends here. What's there to be embarrassed about? Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with this idiot who thought so highly of himself. If it was Kang Mingming here, he wouldn't mind teaching him a lesson. Xiaolong, to put it bluntly, he didn't even have the right to be taught a lesson by Lin Yi. Hey, Lin Yi, even if my Xiaoming kicked you out of that place, you don't have to run away from me, do you? You should at least talk to me. We're old acquaintances, after all. Xiaolong saw that Lin Yi didn't say anything and got even more smug. He shook his suit and quickened his steps. Lin Yi frowned and stopped. He didn't want to bother with a small fry like Xiaolong, but it would be quite annoying if Xiaolong kept following him like a fly. Xiaolong, do you want to die? Lin Yi said coldly to Xiaolong, the impatience in his voice clear. Xiaolong paused and laughed. Are you trying to scare me, Lin Yi? I've heard from my Xiaoming that you're living a pitiful life in that place. You're just a small fry at the bottom of society, running away the moment you see our Xiaoming. If it weren't for Xiaoming's kindness, he'd have killed you long ago. What? You can't live there anymore, so you came back here to act cool? That's right, I'm not your match, but if you dare touch me, my Xiaoming won't let you off. Lin Yi almost laughed out of anger. After all this time, it turned out that this idiot Kang Xiaolong was just bragging to his family, making Xiaolong think that Lin Yi had really escaped from Sky Class Island, so he wasn't afraid of Lin Yi at all. He used to think that Xiaolong was a cunning person, but now he realized that someone who could trust Xiaoming had to have a pretty high IQ as well. Let Kang Mingming come to me for revenge. Lin Yi didn't want to waste any more time with Xiaolong. He slapped Xiaolong's face after saying that. Xiaolong didn't even have time to scream before he was sent flying. Half of his face was swollen, and he spat out a mouthful of teeth. He looked exactly like Igratipovich. If it weren't for their different hair and skin color, they'd look like brothers. Coincidentally, Xiaolong landed in Xue Jianfeng's resting room. He was here to look for Xue Jianfeng, and when he saw the room number, he grabbed the door handle and opened it, screaming, "Master Xue, help! I'm Kang Guifeng's son, Kang Mingming's cousin. Someone's trying to kill me. You have to save me. Master Xue." Xue Jianfeng was waiting alone, bored. He didn't know how Lin Yi was going to deal with him, but when he heard Xiaolong's shout, he didn't think much and stood up. Who the hell dares to kill someone in front of me, Xue Jianfeng? Especially when it's my business partner. Do you want to die? Kang Xiaolong, don't worry. I'm here, and I'll make sure you're safe. He didn't even think that the person dealing with Xiaolong would be Lin Yi. Otherwise, he would have found a turtle shell to hide in and become a ninja turtle for a while. Xiaolong was overjoyed. He dared to mess with Lin Yi because Kang Mingming's bragging had convinced him, and also because he'd just gotten in touch with the Sacred Alliance. He knew that this was the power that Kang Mingming controlled, and he wasn't afraid of Lin Yi at all. That was why he dared to mock Lin Yi without a care in the world. With Xue Jianfeng's strong stance, Xiaolong straightened his back again and turned to Lin Yi, who was slowly walking towards him. Lin Yi, don't be too cocky. I'll make sure You won't be able to walk out of this door today. Xue Jianfeng was walking out, wanting to see who hit Xiaolong when he heard Lin Yi's name. His whole body shrunk a few centimeters, completely different from the Xiaolong who had just straightened his back. Who? Linny? Xue Jianfeng was still thinking about how Lin Yi was going to deal with him when he heard that the person he was going to deal with was Lin Yi. He was scared out of his wits and quickly released his consciousness, wanting to see if it was someone with the same name. Unfortunately, this was Europe. There was no way something like that could happen. It really is Lin Yi. You King tricked me. Xue Jianfeng wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He wanted to cut Xiaolong into pieces. Lin Yi's calm voice came from the corridor. Xue Jianfeng, you're here to act cool again. This habit of pretending to be pretentious really needs to be corrected. Don't pretend to be pretentious all the time. Xue Jianfeng's whole body shook. He didn't wait for Lin Yi to finish speaking. He rushed to Xiaolong's side and slapped the other side of Xiaolong's face. The defenseless Xiaolong was sent flying again, crashing into the wall on the other side. Luckily, he didn't spit out any teeth this time, since he'd already lost all of them. Xiaolong didn't even have time to react before Xue Jianfeng's foot landed on his chest. His body that was halfway down the wall stopped in its tracks. Kong, who do you think you are? How dare you order me around? Are you kidding me? Do you think I'm someone you can order around? Do you believe that I won't teach you a lesson right now? I'll make sure you can't take care of yourself for the rest of your life. Xue Jianfeng was panicking. He was afraid that Lin Yi would turn against him, so he decided to deal with Xiaolong first. Xiaolong looked at Xue Jianfeng, stunned. He stuttered, Master Xue, didn't you say you're going to protect me? Chapter 57:10. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Xue Jianfeng, are you ignoring me? Xue Jianfeng quickly turned around and smiled. Senior Lin? Why are you here? What a coincidence. What did you say? I'm ignoring you? How is that possible? You're too much of a joker. I'm teaching my little brother a lesson, and my eyesight isn't good. I didn't notice you were here. I'm sorry, please forgive me. It's fine if your eyesight isn't good, but why are your ears so bad too? Didn't you hear what I said just now? Lin Yi looked at Xue Jianfeng with a half smile, waiting to see how the guy would continue. Ha ha ha, you might not believe it, but my ears are ringing with all sorts of teachings from you. Senior Lin, if you were to speak to me, I wouldn't be able to tell if it was an illusion or not. Xue Jianfeng's shamelessness had reached the pinnacle. He could come up with this bullshit without even blushing or gasping for breath. Lin Yi was completely convinced. He wanted to see where this guy's bottom line was, but he was destined to be disappointed. This guy had no bottom line at all. Xiaolong was completely dumbfounded. His swollen face was like a pig's head as he laid on the ground. He couldn't understand how Lin Yi, the guy Kong Mingming said would run away the moment he saw him, could be so powerful that even Master Xue was fawning over him. Lin Yi looked at Xiaolong coldly and waved his hand. Scram, tell Kong Mingming that I'm waiting to see him. Xiaolong felt as if he'd been pardoned. He didn't dare say anything else as he quickly got up and ran. Although his face was a little pitiful, his body didn't suffer any serious injuries. Lin Yi and Xue Jianfeng had controlled their strength, and their attacks were well controlled. They only wanted to embarrass him a little. Xue Jianfeng looked at Xiaolong's back with envy. How great would it be if he could run with Xiaolong? Lin Yi stepped into the resting room, and Xue Jianfeng took one last look at Xiaolong disappearing around the corner before withdrawing his envious gaze and following Lin Yi. Senior Lin, do you have any other instructions? After Xue Jianfeng came in, he tactfully closed the door and stood respectfully at the side. Lin Yi didn't beat around the bush, getting straight to the point. Who's in charge of the common world right now? Where is the headquarters? Xue Jianfeng was slightly startled. He guessed that this was a sign that Lin Yi was going to make a move against the center. However, he had no way of completely betraying the center to Lin Yi. After all, the center's poison was still in his body. If the center was finished, then Xue Jianfeng, would be finished as well. I really don't know. Senior Lin, think about it. How long has it been since I left the primordial underworld? How could he have figured out all these things? Xue Jianfeng said with a troubled expression. What he said did make some sense. Lin Yi frowned slightly and said, You said that the person you were going to report to was Dr. Glasses? Who is this person? Where is your base of operations in Milva? Xue Jianfeng thought that Lin Yi already knew all of this, and he couldn't hide it even if he wanted to, so he answered straightforwardly, Dr. Glasses is in charge of the center's research. As for his identity, he's probably the person in charge of the research, right? I'm not too sure myself. He's probably one of the higher-ups in the center, but he's definitely not the most important one. This wasn't a lie, but Xue Jianfeng was implying that Lin Yi had no use in capturing that Dr. Glasses. He wasn't the key person in the center. As for Milva's base, it doesn't have a fixed location. It often changes locations every day or two, so if Senior Lin wants to find the base here, there's no point in doing so. There's nothing of value here. Xue Jianfeng didn't know if Lin Yi would believe him if he said this, so he could only sneak glances at Lin Yi as he spoke, ready to change his words at any time. Lin Yi didn't doubt Xue Jianfeng's words. Although Milva wasn't bad, the headquarters of the center was indeed a little lacking. Moreover, it was normal for the center's headquarters to change locations frequently after knowing that he was here. After all, the incident at K Luo Mountain had directly chased the center out of the ancient underworld. Senior Lin, why don't you let me be your spy? If I discover that the leader of the center has appeared, I'll inform you immediately. What do you think? Xue Jianfeng suddenly said. Of course, these weren't his sincere words, but if he could deceive Lin Yi and make Lin Yi let him go, it would be a very good thing. Lin Yi was slightly startled. Regardless of whether Xue Jianfeng was sincere or not, this was a good suggestion. After all, Lin Yi didn't intend to kill Xue Jianfeng right now. Before he completely captured the leader of the center, he absolutely couldn't let the center have any suspicions. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult to find clues about the center. Your suggestion is not bad. If you are sincere in helping me, I won't mistreat you. Lin Yi nodded non-committally and said indifferently to Xue Jianfeng. Hearing Lin Yi's words, Xue Jianfeng was instantly overjoyed. He had only said it casually, but he didn't expect Lin Yi to really show signs of agreeing. It seemed that this young master was indeed a genius. Senior Lin, please rest assured. I definitely want to help you. Sincerely. As soon as the leader of the center appears, I'll definitely inform you immediately. Moreover, if Dr. Glasses has any research progress, I can also inform you at any time so that you can be prepared. Xue Jianfeng just wanted to leave Lin Yi as soon as possible. Therefore, he kept giving empty promises one after another. Anyway, once he escaped, he wouldn't be able to care about Lin Yi anymore. If you put it this way, I'm really quite interested. If you're making such a promise just to get rid of me, then the next time I see you, it will be the day of your death, said Lin Yi with a faint smile. Although he originally intended to let Xue Jianfeng go, there was no harm in saying a few more words of this kind of casual threat. Xue Jianfeng's body trembled slightly. He quickly put on a smile and said, How could I? I've admired Senior Lin for a long time. It's my fortune to be able to forsake the darkness for the light. Please rest assured, I'll take care of this matter. After saying that, Xue Jianfeng looked at Lin Yi cautiously. His eyes were filled with, Can I go? Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "If you go back like this, you might be suspected. I'd better leave a mark on you." Xue Jianfeng was still thinking about leaving a mark when he immediately felt a pain in his left arm. Then he heard a crisp crack. His arm was actually broken by Lin Yi. Chapter 57:11. He was cursing Lin Yi in his heart, but he still maintained the necessary respect on the surface. He didn't want to put his other arm on the line. "I'll leave a mark on you. You have a great recovery pill on you, right?" Lin Yi smiled faintly and said without a care, although he couldn't kill Xue Jianfeng, he could still make him suffer a little. Xue Jianfeng endured the pain and quickly took out a great recovery pill, wanting to swallow it, but it was snatched away by Lin Yi. "Senior Lin, weren't you the one who told me to eat the great recovery pill?" Xue Jianfeng felt so wronged that he wanted to cry. A broken arm wasn't a big injury. Even without the great recovery pill, it could be healed after a period of treatment with qi. It was just that the pain was a little annoying. Lin Yi put away Xue Jianfeng's great recovery pill and said, "No, I wanted you to take out the great recovery pill for me. If you ate it now, what's the point of this injury? All right, hurry up and go back. Let Dr. Glasses treat you." These words were very reasonable. Xue Jianfeng was speechless and could only say goodbye to Lin Yi with a sullen face. He could finally escape from Lin Yi's clutches. Xue Jianfeng swore that he wouldn't go near any place where Lin Yi was, unless there was a day when his strength could completely overwhelm Lin Yi. After leaving the exhibition venue, Xue Jianfeng quickly rushed to the central stronghold. He wasn't afraid that Lin Yi would use his divine sense to monitor him, because if Lin Yi wanted to follow him, he could move his primordial spirit without being discovered. In the stronghold, the Glasses doctor was studying the Dr. Kang's Golden Creation Medicines formula that Xue Jianfeng sent back. When he saw Xue Jianfeng returning injured, he said indifferently, "Injured? Did you run into Lin Yi again?" Xue Jianfeng cursed. "Isn't it that bastard Lin Yi? Why do I run into him every time? This time, I managed to escape with great difficulty. Luckily, I only lost an arm. Do you have any more great recovery pills? I've run out of them." Chen Dongqing snickered in his heart, but he had some regrets. If he went alone this time, he might be able to reach an agreement with Lin Yi. There weren't many opportunities to meet Lin Yi alone. Chen Dongqing took out a great returning pill and handed it to Xue Jianfeng, saying, "Eat mine first. Fortunately, it's just a fracture. It will heal very quickly." The bespectacled doctor said, without raising his head, "Don't worry. When I come up with a new potion, I'll give it to you to use. At that time, you don't have to worry about such minor injuries at all. Basically, you'll be able to recover immediately. You don't have to be afraid of getting injured anymore. So magical, then I'll be waiting to see." Xue Jianfeng was immediately overjoyed. However, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Should I tell Lin Yi about this? Go. Was he crazy? With this potion, he wouldn't have to be afraid of Lin Yi in the future. Xue Jianfeng quickly patted his forehead and drove the crazy thoughts out of his mind. What he said to Lin Yi just now was just a temporary measure. He mustn't take it seriously. What he didn't know was that Chen Dongqing was also hesitating on the side. Should he inform Lin Yi about this news or use it as a bargaining chip with Lin Yi? In addition to these two people, Big Brother Dafeng also wanted to inform Lin Yi about the situation here. Unfortunately, he didn't have the opportunity to go out alone to contact Lin Yi. He could only worry on the side. At the same time, Igratapovich, who was driven away by Lin Yi, also returned to his home. His family was indeed an ancient aristocratic family in Europe, but it wasn't as powerful as he said. On the other hand, Igratapovich's mother's family, which was his maternal grandfather's family, was the largest mafia family in the area. Seeing that her son had been beaten into a pig's head, Igratopovich's mother was furious. After asking for the reason, the former underworld princess immediately called her brother. Edmund, my dear brother, your nephew was bullied. As an uncle, shouldn't you do something? After the phone was connected, Igratopovich's mother spoke very elegantly. She was no longer angry when she saw her son being beaten up. Edmund, who was on the other end of the phone, laughed and said, "Josephine, my dear sister, do you only remember to call your brother when something happens? Shouldn't you contact your family more often if you have nothing to do?" Edmund, I admit that what you said is right, but can we talk about your poor nephew first? Josephine didn't seem dissatisfied and continued to speak unhurriedly. On the other side, Edmund shrugged and poured himself a glass of red wine, then said, "All right, as an uncle who loves the younger generation, of course I will stand up for our cute little Igratopovich. Tell me what happened." Josephine smiled in satisfaction and looked at the pitiful Igratopovich, then continued, "It's like this. Isn't Milva holding a medical exhibition? There's a medical group from the East. I think they're called Miracle Dr. Guan or something. Their people beat up Igratopovich. Edmund, you didn't see it, but your nephew's teeth were all knocked out. His entire face is swollen. It's so hateful. Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group." Edmund was startled. It sounded familiar. Wait, I think I've heard of this name before. Let me think. Right, one of their products is called Golden Creation, right? It's very effective, and you can't even buy it in Europe. Everything has to be smuggled over. Are they going to enter Europe? This is a good opportunity. My dear Edmund, aren't you focusing on the wrong place? Josephine frowned and expressed her dissatisfaction. That's right, their medicine is really amazing. 5 bodyguards had their limbs broken by them, but after using their medicine, their injuries healed very quickly. This is really surprising, but does this have anything to do with Igratopovich? Oh, yes, my dear Josephine. I have to admit that you're right. Let's talk about how to stand up for Igratopovich. Then tell me what's going on with those 5 bodyguards. Edmund was obviously more concerned about the amazing effects of the medicine. As a mafia family, to have such a miraculous medicine was an invincible trump card. Chapter 57:12. As the princess of the underworld, she was used to being shot to death. It was also the simplest and most direct way to take revenge. However, Edmund obviously didn't think so. When he heard the suggestion, he immediately objected. "Oh, no, my dear sister, I understand how you feel, but this isn't in our family's interest at all. You know, the police have been keeping a close eye on us recently. If there's a shooting, especially if it's an important person from abroad, if it's escalated to a diplomatic level, our family will be in a very passive position." Josephine immediately fell silent. She was originally from that family, so of course she knew that Edmund's words were not false. However, it was impossible for her to just swallow this insult. Igratopovich, who had been listening on the side, came over and said with difficulty, "Uncle Edmund, I think you're right. Instead of killing them, why don't we control their channels and make them earn money for us? We can also threaten them and make them pay a higher price." Although Igratopovich didn't say it very clearly, Edmund was already thinking about this, so he immediately understood what he meant. "Little Igra, you've really grown up. This is a very good idea. You can talk about it in detail, and also tell us about the 5 bodyguards." Seeing that the person involved, Igratopovich, had the same thoughts as him, Edmonton was in a good mood. If they could become the product distributor for Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company, they could foresee a huge amount of money flowing into their pockets. Igratapovich agreed, and first told him that the 5 bodyguards' hands and feet were broken, and then they took the other party's medicine. In less than 10 minutes they could barely walk, and so on. Edmund, who was on the other side, took a deep breath. He had already overestimated the effectiveness of the medicine, but he didn't expect it to be even more shocking than he expected. It was almost like magic. This also strengthened Edmund's determination to become the agent of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. Although his family wasn't involved in the medical industry, they couldn't let go of the opportunity to earn money. Uncle Edmund, are you going to send someone to discuss cooperation now? If that's the case, I think you can get your men to lower the price. This way, we can guarantee our profits and teach them a lesson. I heard that the Sacred Alliance had talked to them before, but nothing was settled in the end. I guess the relationship between the two sides isn't that good. We can provide them with the channels they want the most, and lower the price is a must. Igratapovich laughed sinisterly. He accidentally pulled the wound on his face and immediately grimaced in pain. What you said makes sense. Do you have any other suggestions? Edmund had never thought much of his nephew, thinking that he was just a good-for-nothing. Although he doted on him for the sake of his sister, he had never thought that he would have such thoughts. Igratapovich covered his mouth with his hand and continued carefully, "It's like this. I think we can get their agent rights at a very low price, but don't get into a fight with them. As I said just now, these mysterious Easterners have amazing combat power. We don't need to fight them head-on. We just need to tell them our advantages. If they don't agree to our request, then there will be no place for them in Europe." Igratapovich could see that although Lin Yi was powerful, he obviously didn't dare to go too far here. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stopped when he saw the security. So, using Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group as a breakthrough point should be able to threaten Lin Yi's group. At that time, it wouldn't be difficult to make Su Shirhan obediently climb onto young Master Igratapovich's bed. Igratapovich smiled sinisterly and didn't voice out his dirty thoughts. Instead, he hung up the phone with Edmund. Edmund had already arranged for his men to take care of this matter, so all he had to do now was wait at home. Maybe he should get a better set of dentures first. At this time, the crowd in front of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's booth had finally dispersed. However, the popularity brought by Su Shirhan didn't disappear. There were still many people who came to ask some questions. It made the staff arranged by Kong Xiaobo very busy. If it was before the Sacred Alliance, Miracle Dr. Guan's brand would attract a lot of cooperation. However, with the appearance of the Sacred Alliance, Europe's demand for Miracle Dr. Guan's products had decreased a lot. After all, although the Sacred Alliance's products weren't as good as Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's products, they were cheaper. Before, Miracle Dr. Guan's products were all smuggled in. The price was enough to scare away most people. Because of this, among the people who asked, most of them wanted to buy a batch of products from Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group and sell them in Europe. They wanted to see the effect before deciding on other things. There weren't many who wanted to be the agent. Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi didn't care. It didn't matter if they didn't have an agent. As long as they could sell to Europe, it was fine. They believed that with the quality of their company's products, they would be able to cause a panic in Europe sooner or later. At this time, 3 white men in black suits walked over arrogantly. The one in front was holding a briefcase. Who is the person in charge of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group here? The guy with the briefcase glanced at the people at the booth and asked arrogantly. Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi looked at each other. They both felt that the other party didn't come with good intentions. However, they weren't afraid of trouble. Lai Changyi stood up and said, "I'm the co-director of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group, Lai Changyi." What can I do for you? So you're a co-director. So you're the one who can make decisions? Very good. The guy who spoke nodded slightly and pointed at the seat behind him with his chin. Let's sit down and talk. We want the European agent rights of your Miracle Doctor Guan Medical Group. Chapter 57:13. After sitting down, the man with the briefcase said, I'm here to negotiate with you on behalf of the Fleischer family. You can call me Abel. Now, tell me, what's the price of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's exclusive agency in Europe? Kang Xiaobo raised his eyebrows. He had heard of the Fleischer family. Lanfen was in charge of collecting information. As her husband, of course, he would pay more attention to it. This family was the biggest mafia family around Milva. They were famous throughout Europe. If there was a ranking, they would be at least in the top 5 of the European mafia. Truth be told, Xiaobo didn't really like working with a house like this. They had too much of a bad reputation, and the Fleischer family's name meant butcher. It had been hundreds of years since they'd last changed their ways of doing things. Lai Changyi didn't care. Business was business. No matter who the partner was, it was fine as long as they could enter the European market. If the other party was strong, it would be good for the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. Mr. Abel, if you're talking about the exclusive agency rights in Europe, then I think an agency fee of 10 million euros per year is quite cheap. As for the price of goods, we can also give you some discounts. We'll ship the goods at a 5% discount of our domestic retail price. Of course, you'll be responsible for all the shipping and customs duties. What do you think? Lai Changyi calculated in his mind and gave a relatively favorable price. One had to know that the price of golden creation that was smuggled from China to Europe was at least 5 to 10 times the domestic retail price. Some places were even more expensive. The price that Lai Changyi gave was definitely a good price. Although Kang Xiaobo didn't really like the Fleischer family, he didn't have any objections since Lai Changyi was negotiating. Abel heard the price and shook his head. No. This price is still too high. You have to know that your products have no foundation in Europe, and you don't have any channels. We, the Fleischer family, will provide all the sales channels. So this price of 5% is unacceptable. I think that 40% of the domestic retail price should be enough. Lai Changyi suddenly frowned. The 40% discount of the domestic retail price did not mean that there was no profit, but the products exported to Europe could obviously earn double or even 2 or 3 times the profit. There was no reason to continue to reduce the price. After thinking for a while, Lai Changyi calmly said, I'm sorry, I don't think we can accept this price. If you really want to cooperate, sincerely, we'll give you a 10% discount on the domestic retail price, plus an agency fee of 20 million euros per year. How about that? 20% off, 50 million euros for the agency fee. Abel immediately counteroffered, which was within Lai Changyi's acceptable range. Anyway, they only needed to open up the market in the first year. It didn't matter if they earned less. When the market opened up, they could sign a new contract. This time, the contract would not be more than 2 years. After calculating in his heart, Lai Changyi immediately smiled and said, Deal. I hope we can have a pleasant cooperation. Abel didn't reach out to shake Lai Changyi's hand. Instead, he took out a contract from his briefcase and stuffed it into Lai Changyi's hand. This made Lai Changyi a little embarrassed. There were several similar contracts inside. They were probably prepared according to different negotiation terms. Mr. Abel is really swift and decisive. He even prepared the contract. Lai Changyi laughed and withdrew his hand holding the contract. In his heart, he thought that these Europeans were rude. We, who came from the land of etiquette, don't stoop to their level. Just as he was thinking about this, Lai Changyi flipped open the contract. His eyes suddenly froze. Then, Mr. Lai, who came from the land of etiquette, directly threw the contract in his hand at Abel's annoying and arrogant face. "Get out! You're here to tease me, aren't you?" Lai Changyi's fat face, that always had a smile, seemed to be covered by frost. A terrifying aura rose from his body. Kang Xiaobo looked at Lai Changyi strangely. This guy had always been a nice guy. When he first met Lin Yi, he would hug Lin Yi's leg and cry. What kind of contract could make Fatty Lai so angry? Abel was unmoved this time. He rearranged the contract and put it on the table. "Mr. Lai, don't forget that this is Europe. It's our Fleischer family's territory. These terms are quite favorable for you. Besides, they were your own terms. Are you going back on your word now?" "I told you to get out." Lai Changyi narrowed his eyes. His eyes were flashing with anger. Kang Xiaobo reached out to take a look at the contract. His face turned green. The supply price was correct. It was 20% off the domestic retail price. However, the agent fee of 50 million euros wasn't paid by the Fleischer family to the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. It was paid by the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group to the Fleischer family. It wasn't that there wasn't such a way to pay agent fees, but basically it was for those products that had no market at all. They had to beg others to sell them through a channel. In this way, most of the profits from the sales would go to the product company. Would the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's products have no market if the supply couldn't meet the demand by smuggling 5 to 10 times the price? It showed the profits. If the Fleischer family asked for such an agent fee, then there wouldn't be any supply price because all the profits from the sales of the products would go to the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. Now, these guys wanted the agent fee for the channel and the profits from the sales of the products. What a joke! This kind of cooperation was equivalent to letting Lai Changyi and the others pay for the Fleischer family. Instead of that, wouldn't it be better to sell it in the country? As the #1 follower of Lin Yi thug, Kang Xiaobo's temper was much worse than Lai Changyi's. In addition, he didn't have a good impression of the Fleischer family. After looking at the contract, he slapped it on Abel's face without saying anything. This time, it wasn't a light throw from Lai Changyi. It was a solid slap on Abel's face. His face was slapped to the side. Although it didn't contain any qi, it was more powerful than an ordinary adult slap. Chapter 57:14. After the 2 slaps, Kang Xiaobo's anger subsided a little. He clasped his hands together and shattered the contract into pieces. Then he pushed Abel and the 2 people beside him out without any explanation. Abel, who had just regained his senses after being slapped twice, shouted furiously, "How dare you do this to me? Damn Easterners! Do you know that if you offend us, no one in Europe will dare to work with you? Just wait to get out of Europe with your tails between your legs." Lin Yi suddenly appeared beside Abel, grabbed him by the back of his collar, and threw him out. Then he threw the other 2 out as well. Then he said coldly, "You can leave now. I want to see if there's really no one willing to work with us without you." After that, he turned around and smiled at Kang Xiaobo. "Xiaobo, well done. There's no need to be polite to these *cheese. That being said, the people who came to ask questions earlier turned around and left when they saw this scene. It was obvious that they knew a lot about the Fleischer family. Abel crawled up from 10 meters away, yelling at Lin Yi, "Who the hell are you? How dare you interfere with our Fleischer family's business?" Kang Xiaobo stepped forward and said, "This is our boss. He has the final say in everything in Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company." "Good. Very good. You will regret this." Abel was silent for a while. Then he turned around and walked towards Dr. Kang's booth, while cursing. At the same time, he turned around and said to Lin Yi, "You're not the only one here with golden creation. Although the effect of Dr. Kang's medicine is slightly weaker than yours, it won't be by much. I'll go look for them." This was obviously a sign of weakness. No one knew if it was Edmund's order or if he was really afraid. But Dr. Kang's cooperation was indeed within the plan. Edmund Fleischer wanted to monopolize the golden creation in the East. It wasn't enough to just get Miracle Dr. Guan's dealership. If he could get Dr. Kang's dealership as well, then he'd be able to make huge profits with a small investment. He'd be able to focus on whichever one was more profitable, and there wouldn't be any competition. Miracle Dr. Guan's booth, which had been filled with people before, became deserted once more after Abel left. No one would come to seek cooperation after knowing that Miracle Dr. Guan had offended the Fleischer family. Kong Xiaobo smiled bitterly. "Boss, it seems that this trip is in vain. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, the increased production capacity can be absorbed in China. If it doesn't work, we can sell it to America. Such a small matter made you give up on your plan to enter Europe? Then you have no ambition." Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder with a smile. He didn't seem to mind at all. Lai Chang'e also came over with a smile. "Boss is right. We'll cross the bridge when we get there. Don't worry." "Oh, right, boss. Why did you come alone?" "Oh, I came back to take a look. They're still eating. Why don't you two go and eat as well? Let them watch over here," Lin Yi said casually. He also noticed Abel and the others coming over. It seemed like they didn't come with good intentions, so he came over to take a look. "It's fine. You go eat, boss. Old Lai and I will wait here. Maybe someone will come and ask about it." Kong Xiaobo said a little dispiritedly. He still had some ideas about entering Europe, so he wanted to see if there were more opportunities. Lin Yi sighed softly in his heart. Originally, he didn't want to continue to intervene in the affairs of the secular world, but now it seemed that he still had to use his previous relationships. It was not impossible to destroy the Fleischer family by force, but unless this method could wipe out the entire population of Europe, it was bound to cause a backlash in the future. At that time, Lin Yi would return to Heaven Stage Island, and Kong Xiaobo and the others would become the people who would bear the brunt of the anger. He took out his phone and dialed the familiar number. After it was connected, Lin Yi opened his mouth and wanted to say, "Princess, help me check." But he immediately realized that Ran had fallen into a deep sleep. The intelligence contact of the Black Butterfly Organization had probably been changed a long time ago. Sure enough, there was a pleasant but unfamiliar female voice on the other side. She said softly to Lin Yi, "Hello." Lin Yi replied, "I'm fine." Then the person on the other side said, "The Heavenly King covers the Earth Tiger." Lin Yi whispered, "The Black Widow is dead." To be honest, Lin Yi didn't understand how his master came up with such a contact code back then, and it hadn't changed for so many years. When Ran was still around, Lin Yi didn't need to say it because Ran knew Lin Yi's number and voice. As long as it was Lin Yi calling, she would know immediately. "May I ask for your code name?" The soft female voice continued to explain the process. Lin Yi withdrew his thoughts and said faintly, "Eagle Killer Code Z0001. "Hello, Eagle. Is there anything I can help you with?" The girl's tone was noticeably more respectful after Lin Yi introduced himself. "Please help me check the contact information of a person with the surname Buffon in my previous mission. I forgot his name, but I only know that he is the young master of the Buffon family in Europe." Lin Yi only remembered that there was such a person, and he should be able to help Kong Xiaobo and the others. "Okay, please wait a moment," the female voice said softly, and then continued after only 2 or 3 seconds, "I found it. I have sent it to your mobile phone. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "No, thank you." Lin Yi thanked her and hung up the phone directly. Then he opened the text message. Sure enough, he had received a new message. It was the contact number of the young master of the Buffon family. As long as he could contact him, the threat of the Fleischer family could be resolved. Herman Buffon, this was the person Lin E was looking for. In a mission that year, Lin E saved Kerman's life. Now that he was looking for him to do something, he wouldn't refuse. The phone rang for a long time before it was connected. Then there was deafening music and noise from the other end. It seemed that this guy was out at a bar. "Hello, who is it? Say something. Don't disturb me from drinking." A young man's voice shouted impatiently. It seemed that he was a little unhappy about being disturbed. Lin E smiled slightly and said plainly, "Herman Buffon, I am Eagle." The other side seemed to be stunned for a moment, and then there was an excited scream. "Eagle? Brother Eagle. Quiet. You guys keep quiet." Chapter 57:15. Linny smirked. It seemed like Kerman did not forget that he saved his life. Also, the Buffon family seemed to be quite powerful. Kerman took a few deep breaths. Then he asked nervously and excitedly, "Brothering, is that really you?" "It's me. I haven't seen you for a long time. How are you?" Lin E casually greeted him. After all, they had not contacted each other for many years. "Of course I'm fine. Damn it, Brothering, where have you been all these years? Do you know how many times I've been looking for you? But your previous organization told me that you've already retired. They don't even have your contact information. I've sent people all over Asia to look for you. Unfortunately, there has been no news of you. You finally remembered to call me." Kerman spoke very quickly. Fortunately, Lin Yi's English hearing was not bad. Otherwise, he might not have been able to understand what he was saying. However, Kerman said that he had been looking for him. This surprised Lin E. Back then, he only saved him once. Later on, they established a certain level of friendship. But there was no need for Kerman to look for him for so many years, right? For example, Lin E himself did not even remember Kerman's name. If it wasn't for the detailed information in the text message, it would be awkward for him not to be able to remember Kerman's name. "Brothering, where are you now?" "Asia? Give me the specific coordinates. I'll fly over to meet you immediately." After Kerman spoke, he immediately asked for Lin Yi's location. It seemed like he had been looking for him for a long time. Lin Yi smiled and said, "I'm in Europe now. Milva, if it's convenient for you, you can come over and meet me. I have something to talk to you about." "Milva? I'm in the nearby town of Mendoza. It's very close to Milva. Brothering, wait for me. I'll come over immediately. Where do you want to meet me?" Kerman was overjoyed. His voice was filled with excitement. Linny thought about it and said, "I'm staying at the Milva International Hotel. Why don't you come over there and call me when you're there?" "No problem. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Brothering, wait for me." Kerman immediately hung up. It seemed like he rushed out to drive. Lin E tilted his head. He didn't know why this guy wanted to see him so much. Perhaps it was because he admired him. After all, he was only a teenager when Lin E saved him, the age where he worshipped heroes. After seeing Lin Yi's skills, he made Lin E his idol. No matter what, Kalman's attitude was helpful to Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Lin E didn't think too much about it. He turned back to Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e. "Come, let's go back to the hotel. I've found someone to represent us. There shouldn't be a problem with the European channels." Xiaobo stared blankly at Lin E. "Boss, you're so cool. You even know people in Europe." Lai Chang'e slapped the back of Kang Xiaobo's head. He laughed and said, "What are you talking about? Do you only know how awesome boss is now?" Kang Xiaobo thought about it and agreed. However, he still had to take revenge for being hit by Lai Chang'e. Two joint directors were fighting without any warning. The atmosphere just now was gone. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. He didn't care about the two. He walked out of the venue and called Sun Jingyi and the others. He told them that he was going back to the hotel and that they would go back together after Languza finished his meal. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi laughed as they followed behind Lin Yi. They didn't care about the booth. After what the Fleischer family did on the first day, they probably wouldn't have any intention to cooperate. A few workers were enough to deal with it. After the three of them returned to the hotel, they waited for Kerman at the bar. Kang Xiaobo asked Lin Yi how he knew Kerman. "Boss, didn't you transfer from the mountains to Songshan High School? Since when did you know the young master of a big family in Europe?" Kang Xiaobo poured a glass of red wine for Lin Yi and asked curiously. These lackeys didn't know much about Lin Yi's past, and when he was with Lin Dongfang, no one dared to disturb his and Aunt Qing's private world, so it was normal for him to ask about it now. "Huh? Who said I'm going to Songshan High School? I'm actually going there to be a bodyguard." Lin Yi smiled as he reminisced about the time when he first came to Songshan. "I came here before when I was doing a mission, so it's normal to know people from Europe." "Boss, you're going to be a bodyguard? For who?" Kang Xiaobo paused and looked like he wanted to gossip. Yeah, of course. You can't even guess that. It's a mission my old man gave me, and it's a long story, so I'll keep it short." Lin Yi explained the whole story briefly, and the two felt as if they'd finally understood what was going on. "I see. That's why Boss doesn't look like a student. Speaking of which, Boss, why didn't you go after the two prettiest girls at home and went after sis-in-law Tang Yun instead?" Kang Xiaobo laughed as he wondered if Boss thought that rabbits don't eat the grass near their nest. Lin Yi looked strangely at Kang Xiaobo and said, "Didn't you tell me to go after Tang Yun?" Kang Xiaobo was dumbfounded. It seemed like it was true. He couldn't say anything and could only raise his glass to Lin Yi and Lai Changyi. The three gently clinked their glasses. After Lai Changyi took a sip of red wine, he said to Lin Yi with interest, "Boss, can you tell us about your glorious past? Otherwise, wouldn't it be shameful if we don't even know Boss' glorious past?" Kang Xiaobo immediately nodded and said, "That's right, Boss. Tell us about that Kerman Buffon first. How did you meet him? He seems to have some power here." "Okay, since we have nothing to do anyway, let's just talk about it." Lin usually wouldn't talk about his past. He was in a good mood today, so he told Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi, "I was only 16 years old at that time. I came to Europe to carry out a mission and saved the life of an 11 or 12-year-old boy. That was Kerman Buffon." Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi listened attentively. After 10 seconds, they saw that Lin Yi didn't continue talking, and they couldn't help but ask hesitantly, "Boss, then that's it," Lin Yi said matter-of-factly. Chapter 57:16. However, Lin Yi could go into detail about what happened after he arrived at Songshan, but Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi both knew about it. Seeing how emotional Lin Yi was, they could only sigh along with him. Not long after, Kerman's call arrived. After knowing Lin Yi's exact location, Kerman only took 5 to 6 minutes to appear at the entrance of the bar. The young man from back then had grown a lot taller. He was wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans with a beige casual suit, coupled with his slightly curly short blonde hair. One would think of the word low-key luxury at first glance. "Kerman, over here." Lin Yi waved at the door and stood up with Kang Xiaobo. This was out of respect for a friend, and it had nothing to do with Kerman's identity. Kerman looked towards the direction of Lin Yi's voice, and his face was instantly filled with joy. He stretched his long legs and rushed over, not even bothering to greet the young man behind him. "Brother Ing, I finally found you." Kerman ignored Lin Yi's outstretched hand and rushed up to give Lin Yi a big hug. Then he smiled and nodded at Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e. He hadn't introduced Lin Yi officially, but since he was one of Lin Yi's people, it was only natural for him to express his goodwill. Lin Yi waited for the person who came with Kerman to come over before gesturing for everyone to sit down. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e introduced themselves, saying that they were both Lin Yi's underlings, instantly making Kerman feel a lot closer. Brothering, this is Lyman Gerard, my friend. His family is related to mine, so Lyman often comes out with me to play. After Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e introduced themselves, Kerman also introduced the young man who came with him. Greetings, big brothers. I am Lyman Gerard. If you have any trivial matters in Europe, you can look for me to make arrangements. If there are any major matters, I will still need Brother Kerman's help. Layman said with a brilliant smile. This young man easily gave people a good impression. He did not have the aura of a playboy. Perhaps it was because of Lehman's respect for Lin Yi and the others. From the conversation between the two, Lin Yi could easily determine that Layman should be Zuckerman's younger brother. Or in other words, the Gerard family itself was the younger brother of the Buffon family, so Layman was more or less a follower, following Zuckerman everywhere to play. After the new glasses were delivered, Layman took the initiative to take the bottle and poured wine for Kelman. He also asked Lin Yi and the others if they needed any more wine before pouring it for himself. Brothering, where have you been all these years? Why couldn't I find you? After raising his glass and toasting Lin Yi, Kerman couldn't wait to ask. Linny smiled faintly. It's me. I'm in school. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e couldn't help but laugh. Their boss just said that he wasn't going to school, but to be a bodyguard. And now he said that he was going to school. But this wasn't wrong. Linny did stay in school for a long time. Of course, it was only in name. In reality, he skipped classes every 2 to 3 days. School. Kerman paused, not expecting an answer like this. No wonder the men he sent out couldn't find Lin Yi at all. He'd never asked his men to pay attention to any of the students in the school. You said that you've been looking for me for a long time. What's the matter? Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry to talk about Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. He asked Kelman first. Kelman shook his head, trying to get rid of the fact that Lin Yi was going to school. He put on a look of admiration. It's like this, brothering. I've always wanted to be your disciple. I was young back then, so I didn't think about it. I only regretted it after you went back. I've been looking for you for a few years now, and I finally found you. Today, you must take me as your disciple and teach me martial arts. Lin Yi was speechless. This was really a hero complex. For the sake of learning martial arts, this guy had been looking for someone all over the world for a few years. This guy's heart was quite firm. Layman followed. Brothering, if it's possible, please take me as your disciple. I'm the same as Brother Kelman. I admire your martial arts. Don't worry, Layman. If Brother Ing takes me as his disciple, I'll definitely take you as my disciple. After we finish learning, we'll be able to sweep across Europe. Kelman patted his follower's shoulder, as if Lin Yi had already agreed to take them as his disciples. But Lin Yi didn't say anything. How did it become a certainty? Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e couldn't stop laughing. They didn't expect to encounter such a fun thing with their boss. It wasn't a wasted trip. Lin Yi looked at the two's shoulders and smirked. He said to Kelman, you guys don't have any foundation right now. You should learn from Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e first. I taught them. You guys will be in contact with each other in the future, so it'll be convenient for them to teach you. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e were dumbfounded. Why were they involved? They were the co-directors of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. They didn't have time to play around with these two kids. In fact, The two of them were only a few years older than Kerman, but from their point of view, Kerman and Kerman could only be considered as children who were still wet behind the ears. Kelman and Lehman looked at Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e with distrust, especially Lai Chang'e. He was at the foundational stage, but he still looked like a fatty. He didn't look like a master at all. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e weren't happy. Kelman and Lehman weren't happy either. Lin Yi smiled and pointed at the alloy table in front of him. He said to Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e, "The corner of this table is a bit sharp. It'll hurt easily. Cut it off with your hands and make it smoother." He wanted them to show off their skills to intimidate these two foreigners. Actually, what Linny said was child's play to Kang Xiaobo and Kelman. It was effortless. Since their boss ordered them, they could only shake their heads and smile. Both of them stretched out a finger and gently drew an arc on the corner of the table. Immediately, a smooth and thin line was cut out of the alloy table by their Jinshi. Both of them casually pinched the small corner of the table and took it off. Kelman and Lehman's mouths were wide open. They couldn't believe what they saw. "Is this magic? Brothering, you brought two magicians, right?" Chapter 57:17. Kang Xiaobo looked at him like he was looking at a country bumpkin and said proudly, "Come, Kerman, move aside. This arc isn't smooth enough. Let me fix it." After Kerman moved aside, Kang Xiaobo wiped the corner with his hand, and a layer of fine metal powder was scattered on the ground. Kerman looked at the corner again, and the shape had indeed changed. Only then did he believe that what he saw was real. At that moment, the two European youths looked at Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e with shining eyes. Their shocked expressions made the two of them feel that it wasn't bad to have two disciples like them. Linny smiled. "All right, this matter is settled. Now let's talk business." Kerman wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth and sat up straight. "Big Brothering, if you need anything, just let me know. I'll do my best to help you." "That's not necessary. If you're troubled, you don't have to force yourself," Lin Yi said with a smile, before getting back to the main topic. "Kerman, I wanted to ask, does your family have a medical business?" "Haha, so Big Brother Ing wants to ask about business. Then there's no problem. I'll definitely be able to help. My family does all kinds of business. Just leave it to me, Big Brother Ing." Kerman smiled and said confidently, "All kinds of business? Is it a shopping mall?" Kang Xiaobo interrupted with a smile. He didn't think that Kerman would turn around and nod at him. "We do have shopping malls, but there's only about 30 of them in the whole of Europe. We need to continue expanding." Kang Xiaobo's eyes lit up. It seemed like the Buffon family was really strong. From what Kerman said, shopping malls were one of the less important businesses, but these channels were very helpful to the sales of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's products. Linny nodded. "That's good. Have you heard of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group? Miracle Dr. Guan wants to sell his products in Europe, and he needs an agent." Before Linny could finish, Kerman said excitedly, "Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Corporation, the one with the gold sore medicine, right?" "I know. When I sent people to find Brother Ing, I heard about Miracle Dr. Guan's golden sore medicine. My men even smuggled some over, and the effects were amazing. Brother Ing, are you representing Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company? If that's the case, you must give us the dealership." Lin Yi and the other two were slightly stunned. They didn't expect Kerman to know about their products. However, his explanation was acceptable. Anyone who stayed in the country and came into contact with the gold sore medicine would have a deep impression of this product. Since Kerman knew about it and had the intention, it was easy to negotiate. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e reintroduced themselves as the co-director of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Kong Xiaobo immediately decided to cooperate with them. Although Kerman was young, he was the leader of the new generation in the Buffon family, who had a lot of power. He could take the dealership on his own. Out of respect for Lin Yi and the fact that he was about to learn martial arts from Kong Xiaobo, Kerman generously gave them the greatest sincerity he could. The dealership fee to Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company every year was 100 million euros, and the supply price was the retail price in the country. This condition was much better than what he just gave to the Fleischer family. The dealership fee was a few times higher, not to mention the supply price. Furthermore, Kerman wasn't just giving away money for free. Cooperation was a win-win situation. His subordinates were in the business of smuggling godly Dr. Guanguan's golden sore medicine, and they knew how terrifying the profits were. As long as they could get the exclusive agency rights, a mere 100 million was nothing. If they had a sufficient supply, they could easily earn 700 to 800 million euros a year. Both parties were very sincere, and they quickly finished discussing the details. They agreed to sign the contract tomorrow, and Kuman would hold a press conference to spread the news. After all, Miracle Dr. Guan's golden sore medicine had always been a smuggled product, but it had a good reputation. If they used this opportunity to spread the news, it would definitely be an instant hit. After discussing the business, Kerman, who looked like an elite in the business world, immediately turned into a young man who dreamed of martial arts. He pestered Lin Yi and the other two and started asking all sorts of questions. In the end, the two were drunk and sent to the hotel room. Lin Yi and the other two finally got away. It was almost 1:30 in the morning. Sun Jingyi and the others had already returned to rest. The three went back to their rooms to rest. The next afternoon, House Buffon arranged a press conference at Miracle Dr. Guan's booth to prepare for the signing of the contract with the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. All of this was handled by House Buffon, and Lin Yi didn't have to worry about it. Kerman, on the other hand, only woke up at noon, and after washing up, he came to the stadium in high spirits. It wasn't time yet. The press conference hadn't been set up yet, but Abel got the news from somewhere. He knew that someone was going to sign a contract with the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. So he rushed over with his men. Seeing that Kong Xiaobo and Lai Chengyi were there, but Lin Yi wasn't there, Abel waved his hand and ordered his men to spread out. They surrounded Miracle Dr. Guan's booth, preventing anyone from entering the area. Kong Xiaobo's face darkened when he saw this. Abel, what's the meaning of this? Are you causing trouble? Ha! Which eye of yours saw me causing trouble? I'm maintaining order. I'm helping you. Shouldn't you be thanking us? Abel was quite shameless. He lied through his teeth. Thank you, but we don't need it. Please leave. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Kong Xiaobo laughed coldly. Abel was stunned. Kong Xiaobo's actions last night were still fresh in his memory, but Igratipovich said that these people followed the rules. At least they didn't dare to act recklessly after the security arrived. Abel was at ease. Is this your private place? Why don't we call the security and ask if there's such a saying? Abel looked at Kong Xiaobo mockingly. He knew that Kong Xiaobo wouldn't be able to do anything. Chapter 57:18. Abel looked at Kong Xiaobo's defeated expression and smiled proudly. Mr. Kong, I've said it before. Without the support of the Fleischer family, you'll have a hard time in Europe. How about it? I've prepared a new contract from yesterday. Why don't you sign it? Look at how magnanimous I am. You should be grateful for this. Languza suddenly appeared out of nowhere with a big bag of hamburgers in his arms. His mouth was also stuffed full. Seeing Abel's arrogant look, he turned to Kong Xiaobo and said vaguely, Brother Kong, This guy looks quite annoying. Do you want me to help you beat him up? Kang Xiaobo smiled. These days, he and Lang Guza had become familiar with each other. He knew that Lang Guza simply liked to fight. To be more precise, he liked to bully noobs. However, Lin Yi didn't allow him to casually make a move. If Kang Xiaobo agreed, then it wouldn't violate Lin Yi's order. No need. Lang Guza, you go find boss. I can handle this. Kang Xiaobo smiled and waved his hand. He knew that Lang Guza didn't hold back. He didn't dare to let Lang Guza make a move. Lang Guza shook his head regretfully. He took out a hamburger from the bag and took a big bite. Then he went to the lounge. Lin Yi, Sun Jingyi, Su Shirhan, and the others were waiting there. Abel suddenly felt cold sweat on his forehead. The moment he saw Lang Guza, he thought of the 5 bodyguards of Igor Apovich. It was said that they were caught by this blue-haired guy in an instant. Then their limbs were mercilessly broken. If Lang Guza attacked him just now, wouldn't he end up in the same miserable state? Abel was secretly afraid. He didn't dare to say anything to provoke Lang Guza. Anyway, today's goal was to destroy the contract between Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company and some European companies or individuals. As long as he showed the name of the Fleischer family, he believed that not many people would dare to mess with them. Yo, isn't this the watchdog of the Fleischer family? Why are you in such a good mood? Where's your master? Didn't he come with you, with a leash? Just when Abel was thinking that not many people would dare to offend the Fleischer family, a fearless person walked over. It was the young master of the Buffon family, Kerman Buffon. Looking back, Abel's face turned ugly. Kerman didn't bring Layman alone. There were more than 20 bodyguards. They were supposed to maintain order at the scene. Who would have thought that they would be surrounded by the people from the Fleischer family before the conference even started? Kerman, this is the territory of the Fleischer family. I'm doing something serious right now. Are you trying to provoke us by bringing people here? Abel said in a deep voice. Although he was afraid of the Buffon family, he wasn't afraid. I don't have the time to provoke a watchdog. I'm here for serious business. Do you see the setup for the press conference? Kerman pointed at the press conference, which had yet to be completed. His meaning was self-explanatory. Kerman Buffon, this is the business that our Fleischer family wanted first. Are you trying to snatch it from us? Abel stared at Kerman angrily. He immediately realized that it was the Buffon family that had formed a partnership with the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. But he also knew that there wasn't much hope for this business. The strength of the Buffon family was no worse than that of the Fleischer family. Perhaps it was even stronger. More importantly, the Fleischer family and the Buffon family had always been at odds. They were originally enemies, so they would not give him face. As expected, Kerman laughed. That's funny. You're saying it as if you didn't snatch business from us. Plus, I've officially formed a partnership agreement with Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. I'm not like some shameless people who only know how to use underhanded methods. Forget it. Why am I wasting my breath on a dog? It's a waste of my saliva and lowers my status. Abel's face turned green. He gritted his teeth. Kerman Buffon, don't forget where you are. This is Milva, the territory of our Fleischer family. Aren't you afraid that old Buffon will be sad if you come here and cause trouble? This time, Lehman didn't need Kerman to speak. He sneered. What a joke. If your Fleischer family dares to touch Kerman here, we, the Gerard family, will be the first to teach you a lesson. Abel narrowed his eyes and looked at Komen and Lehman with murderous intent. Although the Gerard family was the younger brother of the Buffon family, and their strength was more than a level lower, the Gerard family was famous for their crazy fighting spirit. If they really bit the Fleischer family, even if they couldn't kill the Fleischer family, they would definitely be able to tear off a large piece of flesh. I'm in a good mood today. I don't want to argue with a watchdog like you. Get lost. If you want to cause trouble for this young master, send Edmund or those useless sons of his to deal with me. You're not qualified. Kerman said to Abel in disdain. He then waved his hand and asked his men to chase him and the Fleischer family away. This was their territory, but Kerman had the confidence to do so. Needless to say, this guy had the potential to become an overlord when he fully matured. Although Abel was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. His heart was bleeding as he watched a cornucopia of business being snatched away like this. If he had known this earlier, he would have signed the contract according to Lai Changyi's conditions yesterday. The conditions were really very favorable. It was very easy to earn €1 billion a year. Now, it was all for naught. Dr. Kang's golden sore medicine, which was similar to miracle Dr. Guan's, was taken away by the Sacred Alliance long ago. The Fleischer family, who lost both ends, could only watch as others ate the meat. They couldn't even get a share of the soup. All of this was because of that idiot Igratipovich. What a stupid idea. Abel thought hatefully. Unfortunately, he couldn't do anything. Kerman was right. He was just a dog under Edmund, and Igratipovich was Edmund's nephew. What should he do in the end? Edmund had to figure it out himself. Chapter 57:19. Kang Xiaobo smiled and nodded. Boss is here. He's resting in the lounge. Did you sleep well last night? It was all right. This little bit of wine is nothing. How about we go for a drink after today's conference? Kerman said with a smile, as if he wasn't the drunk person yesterday. Kang Xiaobo didn't mind. With his strength, he could drink a jar of white wine, let alone a few bottles of red wine. It wasn't a big deal. It was normal for him to not get drunk after thousands of glasses of true qi. The two of them stood at the side and chatted for a while. The background of the conference was almost done. If the banner Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group authorizes Buffon Group to sign the contract for all products in Europe was hung earlier, the unlucky Abel probably wouldn't have walked into the muzzle of the gun. That's why it was said that the early worm would be eaten by the bird. Wouldn't everything be fine if you came a little later? With the Buffon family's presence, the rest of the process went smoothly. Kerman, as the representative of the Buffon family, signed his name with Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi under the flashing lights. Then they exchanged the contract and officially announced the establishment of the partnership. The Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group had also begun their steps into Europe. Although the Fleischer family was unwilling, they didn't dare to do anything to Kerman on the surface. Both parties were enemies, but before they had full confidence, no one would go against Kerman, especially since this was the Fleischer family's territory. If anything happened to Kerman, it didn't matter if it was done by them or not. In the end, the Fleischer family would be besieged by the other neutral families. So not only could Edmund not do anything to Kerman, he had to ensure Kerman's safety. As for whether he would secretly find someone to kill Kerman after leaving the Fleischer family's territory, it would depend on the situation. After the signing was done, there was nothing for Lin Yi to do. The matter of opening the European market would naturally be handled by the Buffon family. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi only needed to sit at home and collect the money. Big Brother Ing, where are you going now? Kerman chuckled as he followed behind Lin Yi. He had found a big business for his family, which was a huge contribution. Furthermore, he could finally learn the martial arts that he had been dreaming of. His mood was indescribable. Coleman did not need to worry about the follow-up business, so he was very free now. It would be best if he could follow Lin Yi around. Lin Yi smiled and said, I'm going to Lanmi with them to watch Cheng Yi's concert. If you have nothing to do, come with us. Even if Lin Yi didn't invite him, Kerman would probably go with him. Hence, Lin Yi decided to ask him to come along. Kerman immediately smiled and nodded. I'm fine. I'm free all day. I know Cheng Yi. She's a very famous Chinese singer. I happen to be her fan. Let's go together. Brothering, do you have tickets? Do you want me to get someone to buy them? Cheng Yi's concert tickets were sold out a month ago. There was no such thing as a scalper in Europe. Only a young master like Kerman would dare to ask for tickets. Lin Yi smiled and said, That's not necessary. We can just go in. Go in. Kerman was a little suspicious, but when he saw Su Shirhan coming out of the resting room, he knew how to get in. Su Shirhan. What was unexpected was that Lyman and Keeman, these two guys that were inseparable, were Shirhan's fans as well. They didn't even care about Lin Yi and the others when they saw Shirhan rushing over to ask for an autograph and a picture. Sure enough, the young master of a big family was still an ordinary person. He would have the need to chase after celebrities. However, compared to trash like Igor Adopovich, these two brats were obviously more likable. At least they wouldn't show off their status and look down on celebrities and other artists. After a while, Kerman found a long limousine and put Lin Yi and the others in. They left for Blue Rice. There was food, drinks, and entertainment in the car, so they didn't feel that time was short. By the time they reached Lan Mi and Cheng Yi's concert venue, the sky was already dark. The group had already eaten their fill in the car, so they didn't need to find a place to eat. Su Shirhan directly brought them to the venue. Of course, the only one who was unhappy was Lang Guza. The limousine wasn't enough for him to eat his fill. A truck was more suitable with Cheng Yi's arrangements. Lin Yi and the others were seated at the very front. Kerman and Lin Yi were quite pleased with themselves as well. They'd always gotten the best seats for concerts, but this was the first time Su Shirhan had brought them here personally. It was a completely different feeling. A song and dance started the concert. Cheng Yi's voice was different from Su Shirhan's. It lacked the ethereal aura, but it was more fiery and direct. Coupled with her graceful figure and sexy dance, it ignited the atmosphere of the audience. If Su Shirhan was a fairy, then Cheng Yi was a witch. When the two appeared at the same time, the entire venue seemed to explode. The sound waves shot up to the sky. One could see how popular the two were in Europe. They were definitely treated like superstars. After the song, Cheng Yi held Su Shirhan's hand and said shyly, Today, I'm very happy that so many friends came to my concert, especially one of them. She's my most important and favorite person. The entire audience burst into a huge uproar. No one had expected that Cheng Yi, who had never been involved in any scandals, would suddenly say such a thing. Lin Yi was also a little stunned. He vaguely knew what Cheng Yi was going to say, but he couldn't do anything right now. After the crowd calmed down, Cheng Yi continued, I've always liked this person, but I've never confessed, because he's the person my good sister likes, so I didn't dare to say it. If it was possible, I would never say it. But today, my good sister encouraged me. Happiness is something that you have to fight for yourself. So, I mustered up the courage to confess to him in front of the whole world. Chapter 57:20. Lin Yi sweated profusely. Cheng Yi had already made it so clear. If he still couldn't confirm that he was the one being confessed to, then he would really be an idiot. To be honest, Lin Yi had a good impression of Cheng Yi. Although Cheng Yi approached Su Shirhan as a spy and tried to seduce Lin Yi, everything proved that she was a good girl. Sun Jingyi, Kang Xiaobo, and Lai Changyi all looked at Lin Yi with a mischievous smile. Lin Yi already had a lot of girlfriends. He didn't care if there was another Cheng Yi. Even Sun Jingyi wasn't unhappy at all. This matter would be settled after Cheng-yi said it. The fans all shouted in unison, "Confession! Confession! Confession!" Although Cheng-yi was a super idol, the fans were more appreciative of their idols. They were full of romantic genes. To be able to witness this romantic moment was also very fortunate for them. After getting the encouragement from the fans, Cheng-yi finally gathered her courage and looked at Su Shirhan gratefully. Under Su Shirhan's encouraging gaze, she let go of her hand and slowly walked to the front of the stage. The spotlight followed Cheng-yi. It was as if she was the only person left in the world. When she said the name of the person she was going to confess to, another spotlight would shine on him. The two of them became the protagonists of the world. Suddenly, all the light sources disappeared without any warning. The whole place was plunged into endless darkness. At first, everyone thought that it was the preparation for the confession. Because Cheng-yi was shy, she needed some darkness to boost her courage. Many people laughed out of kindness. Only Lin Yi felt that something was wrong. The moment the light disappeared, Lin Yi's divine sense was completely blocked. Even the people around him couldn't feel it. This was obviously not a normal situation. "Languza, protect them!" Lin Yi let out a low roar and grabbed Sun Jingyi, who was beside him. He grabbed her slender waist and flew up to the stage. In his memory, Cheng-yi's location was nowhere to be found. Lin Yi didn't stop and continued to rush towards Su Shirhan. At the same time, he shot out tens of zhenqi towards Su Shirhan. In the next moment, Lin Yi's hand held Su Shirhan's slightly cold palm. His heart suddenly calmed down, and he whispered, "Shirhan, Brother Lin, it's me." Su Shirhan's voice was slightly shaky. "There was something trying to catch me just now. Luckily you came fast. Where is he?" "I don't know either." Lin Yi answered casually. He shot out a ball of Dan fire and controlled it to circle around the stage. However, the Dan fire could barely light up a foot around him. After flying around, there was nothing. Where was Cheng-yi? The audience finally realized that something was wrong and started to panic. They all screamed because their phones couldn't light up the person next to them. Not to mention the light from the screen, even if they turned on the phone's flashlight function. It was the same. It was as if there was a monster in the darkness that was devouring the light. Lin Yi brought Sun Jingyi and Su Shirhan back to the front row. At this time, it was better for everyone to stay together and take care of each other. 10 seconds later, the lights came back on. The audience's emotions calmed down a little, but Cheng-yi was still nowhere to be seen. The security guards started to appear to maintain the order and let everyone stay calm. Lin Yi's divine sense returned to its original function, but no matter how he looked, he couldn't find any trace of Cheng-yi. A living person completely disappeared under Lin Yi's eyes without leaving a trace. This kind of possibility was almost impossible, but now that it happened, the biggest suspect was only the center. "Brother Lin, where did he go?" Su Shirhan grabbed Lin Yi's arm tightly and asked in panic. Lin Yi shook his head. "I can't find her at the moment, but don't worry, we will find Yi eventually." After comforting Su Shirhan, Lin Yi turned to Languza. "I'll leave this place to you. You must protect their safety. I'll go find Yi." Languza nodded solemnly. "Don't worry, boss. I'll protect them with my life." With his strength, apart from Lin Yi, he was basically invincible in the secular world, so Lin Yi was very relieved. As long as they were by Languza's side, there shouldn't be any problems. After nodding at the crowd, Lin Yi transformed into his primordial spirit form and flew above the concert venue. He expanded his divine sense to almost cover the entire blue rice. Unfortunately, no matter how hard Lin Yi searched, he couldn't find any trace of Cheng-yi. It was as if she had never been here in the first place, completely disappearing without a trace. At the same time, on the flying saucer far away from Lanmi, Xiaolong was laughing weirdly. "Linny, that idiot! How dare he hit me? You always like to act cool in front of me. Are you dumbfounded now? Ha ha ha! Let him be arrogant. Now that he can't even protect his woman, let's see how he'll act cool in the future." Chen Dongqing looked at Xiaolong in disdain from the corner. He really looked down on this guy. He didn't have any skills at all, and yet he always wanted to step on Lin Yi. If it wasn't for his brother Kong Ming Ming's position in the center, he wouldn't have let him on this flying saucer at all. Chen Dongqing, who already had thoughts of joining Lin Yi's side, felt that the center was hopeless. They were just a bunch of defeated soldiers who didn't dare to fight Lin Yi face to face, and even resorted to kidnapping people. They even let trash like Xiaolong participate in the plan. It was like a joke. How was this even a big deal? It was a pity that Chen Dongqing couldn't go out as he pleased, and he didn't have any tools to contact Lin Yi. Otherwise, this would be a good opportunity to show off. Xiaolong was still laughing maniacally, and Chen Dongqing snorted inwardly. This idiot thought that he could threaten Lin Yi just because he had Cheng Yi in his hands. If he got caught by Lin Yi, wouldn't he just die? If he wanted to fight against someone as strong as Lin Yi, the most important thing was to have enough strength to fight him. Otherwise, everything would just be empty talk. Even he, Chen Dongqing, could see through this, but none of the smart people in the center could see through it. It could only be said that they were a bunch of short-sighted rats. Chapter 57:21. In the isolation room, Cheng Yi woke up, but she didn't panic. She calmly observed her surroundings. It wasn't as if she didn't know anyone in the ship, like Xiaolong, the son of Miracle Dr. Kang's family. She knew who he was. "Xiaolong, did you kidnap me?" Cheng Yi's eyes stopped on Xiaolong as she said coldly. She reached out and touched the alloy bars in front of her. With her strength, normal bars couldn't stop her. However, as soon as her fingers touched the fence, a strong electric current instantly surged into her body, causing her arm to fly out. Cheng Yi let out a muffled groan, and her whole body fell on her back. Xiaolong turned to the isolation room and laughed. "Cheng Yi, don't waste your strength. There's over 10,000 volts of electricity on top of the bars. You're lucky this time. I only touched your fingertip lightly. If you'd grabbed it, I wouldn't have been able to save you." Cheng Yi's entire arm was numb from the electricity, and half of her body had fallen into a strong numbness. She struggled to sit up and said with a sneer, "What's the use of capturing me? Lin Bro will find me soon and save me. When that happens, none of you will be able to escape." "Ha! You're using that idiot Lin Yi to threaten me? You've got some guts." Xiaolong stood up and walked to the bars, looking down at Cheng Yi. "If Lin Yi wants to save you, he'll have to find you first. Of course, I'll give him a chance. As long as he gives me the Miracle Dr. Medicine Group's formula, I won't mind letting him find you. Don't even think about it. I have nothing to do with Lin Yi. You think you can use me to threaten him?" Cheng Yi was glad that she didn't have the chance to confess to Lin Yi. At least now, she and Lin Yi were just normal friends. She shouldn't be used to threaten Lin Yi. Xiaolong paused. This was something he cared about. He wanted to capture Su Shihan or Sun Jingyi. These were the two people Lin Yi cared about. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to capture any of them. They're all useless. I can't even capture the key person. Xiaolong muttered in dissatisfaction. "What did you say? You want to die?" Chen Dongqing said coldly. He was a profound ascension stage cultivator. No matter how softly Xiaolong spoke, it couldn't escape his ears. If it was Kong Xiaoming here, Chen Dongqing might have some concerns. After all, he was an important member of Sky Class Island, but Kong Xiaolong was nothing. He wasn't even a cultivator and didn't have any special abilities. If they really killed him, the center probably wouldn't do anything to Chen Dongcheng. Xiaolong shivered slightly. He wasn't an idiot, and he knew that he couldn't afford to offend these two masters. He laughed dryly to cover it up and turned to Cheng Yi. You better pray that Lin Yi comes to exchange for you. If he doesn't, then you're useless. We'll just use you for human experiments. Of course, it's not right to say that you're useless. You're an international superstar. After all, before the human experiments, I can have a taste of a superstar like you and see how you taste different from other women. Cheng Yi's expression changed slightly, but she didn't say anything. After all, it was useless to say anything. Chen Dongcheng looked at Xiaolong with more and more disdain. Although he wasn't a good person in the past, he couldn't stand Xiaolong's shamelessness anymore. If he really had the chance to follow Lin Yi, he could give this trash's head to Lin Yi as a small gift. Xue Jianfeng said faintly, "Don't talk nonsense. I know Lin Yi. He looks kind and righteous on the surface, but he'll protect anyone who's related to him. Even if this Cheng Yi isn't Lin Yi's woman, as long as she's his friend, Lin Yi won't leave her alone. Go back first and wait for Lin Yi to come." Xiaolong glared at Cheng Yi and turned back with a smile. Master Xue's right. Lin Yi's just a hypocrite who likes to put on an act. This means that the plan this time is a success. Chen Dongqing's eyes lit up when he heard Xue Jianfeng's words. He didn't think that Lin Yi was such a protective person. Anyone who followed him wouldn't be at a disadvantage. In other words, switching to Lin Yi was more of a good thing than a bad thing. Unknowingly, the balance in Chen Dongqing's heart tilted towards Lin Yi's direction. If he got the chance, he might just go to Lin Yi's side. Lin Yi flew around Lanmi a few times. His divine sense searched the whole city inch by inch, but he still couldn't find anything. He could only return to the stadium helplessly. During this time, all the audience was evacuated, but the entire stadium was locked down. Cheng Yi's sudden disappearance from the concert was definitely a big incident in this city. If it weren't for the huge number of people, the police wouldn't even allow anyone to leave first. Su Shirhan and the others were naturally still in the stadium. They just returned to the backstage. Languza protected everyone meticulously and was ready to make a move at any time. When Lin Yi appeared alone, Su Shirhan showed an obvious disappointed expression. Even the omnipotent Lin Yi couldn't find Cheng Yi. Didn't that mean that Cheng Yi was dead? "Boss, didn't you find out?" Languza asked with a rare serious expression. The other party was able to capture someone under his and Lin Yi's eyes. This was indeed very powerful. At the same time, it made Languza lose face. Lin Yi shook his head. "No, but even if we didn't find out, it's still a discovery. From this situation, the only possibility is that the Central Command Center captured Cheng Yi. Since they captured her, they must have a purpose. When the time comes, they will definitely contact me. So don't worry, Cheng Yi is still safe for now." Hearing Lin Yi's words, Su Shirhan was slightly relieved. But Cheng Yi falling into the hands of Lin Yi's enemies wasn't a happy thing. They must save her as soon as possible. Unfortunately, there was no clue. They could only wait for the Central Command Center to contact Lin Yi. Chapter 5722. The UFO didn't slow down until it was more than 1,000 meters deep into the sea, slowly gliding towards a trench. When the UFO got closer, the dark trench suddenly lit up with starry lights, and the trench slowly opened up to two sides, revealing a huge metal platform. The UFO landed smoothly on one of the platforms, according to the lights, and entered the platform. Xiaolong, who was in the UFO, couldn't help but exclaim, "There's a base like this at the bottom of the high seas." It's too shocking. It feels like I'm watching a sci-fi movie. With this kind of power, it'd be easy for the center to rule the world, right? Chen Dongcheng said in disdain. Don't be surprised. In fact, it was his first time here, and he was equally shocked. However, there wasn't much technology in the ancient Jianghu, so a mobile phone and a base like this didn't make much difference to him. He thought that since there was such an incredible device like a mobile phone, there was nothing to be surprised about. At most, it would be many times bigger than a mobile phone. After the seawater in the elevator was emptied, the sound of a door opening came from the UFO. Xue Jianfeng pressed a button and signaled the two to bring Cheng Yi down. Walking out of the elevator, the glasses doctor was waiting at the door. He ignored Xue Jianfeng and the others and said to Cheng Yi politely, "Miss Cheng, I've heard a lot about you. Your voice is very beautiful, and I've never had the chance to hear you sing live. This time, I've finally invited you as a guest. This is the Sacred Center. Welcome, Miss Cheng." Cheng Yi snorted and didn't pay attention to this guy in glasses at all. No matter how she looked at him, he was a pervert. Why bother with him? If it weren't for the fact that all the meridians in her body were sealed by Xue Jianfeng's pure qi, Cheng Yi might have killed this guy directly. He seemed to be the leader of this group, and also the leader of Lin Yi's enemies. Killing him should be of great help to Lin Yi, right? Miss Cheng doesn't seem to be very happy. It doesn't matter. I will arrange for someone to take Miss Cheng to visit our central sacred region first. I believe you will like it here very soon. The doctor smiled nonchalantly and gave an order to his follower to bring Chen Dongcheng and Zhao Long around the sacred base, while he brought Xue Jianfeng in another direction. Obviously, in the bespectacled doctor's heart, Xue Jianfeng's position was higher than Chen Dongcheng's. This also made Chen Dongcheng, who had left, lean towards Lin Yi. Xue Jianfeng didn't ask anything, instead silently following behind the bespectacled doctor. After walking through a long alloy tunnel filled with a sci-fi atmosphere, the bespectacled doctor finally stopped in front of a door. After taking off his glasses, countless rays of light moved from the top of his head all the way to the tip of his toes. A three-dimensional projection appeared on the door, comparing the face, skeleton, iris, and other aspects. After confirming that there was no mistake, the door silently slid open. "Come in." The bespectacled doctor put his glasses back on and said faintly without turning his head. Xue Jianfeng nodded silently and followed in. The room was like a small screening hall. In front of a huge screen, there was a long curved table made of alloy. There were 7 chairs on the side facing the screen. At this time, a young woman was sitting on the chair in the middle. The bespectacled doctor walked to the woman and bowed slightly. "Miss Lan, the person has been captured. What should we do next?" Lan Xiaoru's fingers moved quickly on the table a few times, and the huge screen was instantly divided into hundreds of small screens, showing the important passages of the sacred region in the center. Among them was the scene of Cheng Yi, Chen Dongcheng, and Kang Zhaolong. Lan Xiaoru nodded. "Cheng Yi, she's a good bait. How's the development of the new medicine?" "We've already made a sample. If Miss Lan agrees, why don't we let Xue Jianfeng test the effects of the injection?" The bespectacled doctor didn't care that Xue Jianfeng was behind him. He spoke as if Xue Jianfeng was a normal lab rat. Xue Jianfeng was furious, but if it could increase his strength, then so be it. There was no need to be so calculative. Lan Xiaoru turned to Xue Jianfeng and said faintly, "Xue Jianfeng, you're an elite that the Central is focusing on nurturing. Every time there's a new medicine that can increase your strength, we'll give it to you first. You have to know that the materials to make these medicines are very rare, and the production is very limited. If you're not willing, you can tell us." We'll consider changing people to test it. Of course, we won't give you priority when it comes to medicine in the future." Shui Jianfeng was slightly startled. Although it was still the same meaning, Lan Xiaoru seemed to say it more pleasing to the ear. Even if there was a threatening tone, Shui Jianfeng could accept it. "Miss Lan, please let me use the medicine. I believe that I can handle any new product." Shui Jianfeng was very straightforward. If he couldn't increase his strength, then he would never be able to surpass Lin Yi. This was something he absolutely couldn't accept. Lin Yi was Shui Jianfeng's greatest enemy. Shui Jianfeng had always wanted to kill Lin Yi. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, he was suppressed by Lin Yi in all aspects. This made him thirst for strength even more. Even if he had to bear a certain risk, he wouldn't hesitate. Lan Xiaoru didn't know what Shui Jianfeng was thinking. After hearing the answer she wanted, she nodded in satisfaction and said, "Very good. As long as you're willing to cooperate, you'll always be an elite that we focus on nurturing. I called you here to talk about this. You can leave first. After I discuss with the bespectacled doctor, I'll inject you with the new medicine." Shui Jianfeng bowed slightly and agreed respectfully. Then he turned and left the room. After the room door closed, Lan Xiaoru said to the bespectacled doctor, "How's the effect of the new medicine?" She didn't care about the indicators like safety. The most important thing was the effect. Chapter 57:23. Lan Xiaoru shook her head and said, "There's no time. Let's try it first. I've contacted the main body on Heavenly Island. He said that Lin Yi's spirit was projected over this time. His physical body has no signs of damage after such a long time, which means that his spirit didn't affect his physical body too much." The doctor in glasses raised his head slightly and looked at Lan Xiaoru. "You mean to deal with Lin Yi's spirit with all our strength?" "Of course. Otherwise, do you think I would agree to you guys taking hostages? This kind of retarded blackmail plan is simply an insult to my intelligence. But it's a good choice to use as bait." The doctor in glasses calculated in his mind and felt that this plan was completely feasible. The only thing he needed to worry about was the reaction from the higher-ups. Won't killing Lin Yi's spirit cause an accident from the higher-ups? You have to know that this is different from the previous plan. The doctor in glasses said with some worry. He didn't have the guts to openly disobey the orders from the higher-ups. Lan Xiaoru's fingers gently tapped on the metal table, making a soft sound. Then she said with a smile, "The main body said that as long as Lin Yi's physical body doesn't die, there won't be any problems. Since it has been proven that the separation of the spirit won't affect his physical body, then we can take the opportunity to kill Lin Yi's spirit. This is the best opportunity. Anyway, if something happens to his spirit, he can only blame his bad luck. As long as his physical body is alive, we can explain to the higher-ups. In that case, we can give it a try." The doctor in glasses finally nodded in agreement. After all, Lin Yi had given him too much pressure recently. If he could get rid of Lin Yi, it would also be a good thing for him. It's not a try, it must succeed. Lin Yi's growth rate is beyond our imagination. If this continues, he will become a big problem for us sooner or later. A trace of ruthlessness appeared on Lan Xiaoru's face. When the doctor in glasses saw this, he felt a slight chill in his heart. "Understood. I'll call Lin Yi now and ask him to come over. Miss Lan, have you thought about how to deal with him?" The doctor in glasses took out his phone and asked worriedly. Lan Xiaoru waved her hand and said, "Do what you need to do first. I will make arrangements for the rest." The bespectacled doctor nodded slightly and did not dare to ask any more questions. He immediately dialed Lin Yi's number. "Lin Yi, if you want to save Cheng Yi, then make sure that all the formulas of the Godly Doctor Medical Group are ready, and then wait for my call to exchange them. If you don't agree, prepare to collect Chung Yi's body." After the glasses doctor finished speaking quickly, he hung up the phone directly without waiting for Lin Yi to answer. Lan Xiaoru furrowed her brows and said, "Are you sure it's Lin Yi?" The bespectacled doctor was stunned. He looked at the phone and said, "There's no mistake. This is Lin Yi's number. It's the latest." Did he speak? What if the person who answered the phone wasn't him? Lan Xiaoru continued to ask. The bespectacled doctor was speechless. After a moment of silence, the bespectacled doctor picked up his phone and said, "Let me confirm." After dialing again, the bespectacled doctor pretended to be indifferent and asked, "Are you Lin Yi?" "It's me." Lin Yi's voice came from the other side, which made the bespectacled doctor heave a sigh of relief. "Do you understand what I said just now?" It seemed too awkward to hang up just like that, so the bespectacled doctor could only ask casually, "I understand. Where is the transaction?" Lin Yi was still extremely calm. "Wait for my call." The bespectacled doctor hung up again, then said to Lan Xiaoru, "It's Lin Yi." After saying that, he suddenly felt like he was acting like an idiot, and it immediately triggered a serious embarrassment. He could only cough and say, "I will go and inject the medicine into Xue Jianfeng first. Let me know if there's any news." Then he turned around and left. When Lin Yi heard the busy tone from the phone again, he couldn't help but frown slightly. He didn't know who had contacted him just now. It should be the center, but was it really okay for the center to use such idiots to do things? How did they develop and become so strong? "Boss, is there any news about Yi?" Kang Xiaobo saw Lin Yi put down his phone, so he quickly asked with concern. "Sort of. The other party should be the center. This time, their target is the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's formula, and they want me to use the formula to exchange for Yi." Lin Yi looked at Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi, and he didn't intend to hide it. Fortunately, Kelman and Layman were taken away by the Buffon family. Otherwise, if they just signed the contract with them and had to give the formula to someone else, even if they had a good relationship with them, it wouldn't be easy to ask for it. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi didn't care. After all, this company originally belonged to Lin Yi. Although they had put in all their effort in order to save people, they couldn't care so much. "Boss, if that's the case, then let's prepare first. No matter what, Yi's safety is the most important." Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi looked at each other and immediately expressed their stance. Lin Yi nodded and said, "I'll see how the situation goes. Let's prepare the things first." Actually, there wasn't much to prepare for these things. Lin Yi was the one who came up with it, so who would know better than him? It was just that Kang Xiaobo and the others were in charge of the company now, and Lin Yi didn't interfere at all, so they still needed to go through this formality. Very quickly, Kang Xiaobo prepared the formula and passed it to Lin Yi, and then they began to wait for the center's call. The center didn't let them wait for too long, and very quickly they called again, "Lin Yi, find a boat by the sea yourself and sail it near the international waters. We will contact you when the time comes for the specific location. Remember, you can only come alone. If anyone follows you, you will have to collect Chung Yi's body." Lin Yi said coldly, "I understand. You guys wait." This time, Lin Yi originally planned to go alone, and the other party's request was exactly what he wanted. Of course, if Languza went with him, as a sea dragon, he could still unleash his greatest power in the sea, but Lin Yi still needed Languza to stay behind to protect Su Shirhan and Sun Jingyi. Compared to that, this mission was more important. After putting away the phone, Lin Yi didn't wait for the others to ask and directly said to Languza, "Languza, you stay behind to protect them. I will go alone to save Yi. Don't worry, In this world, there is no one or thing that can threaten me. Sun Jingyi and Su Shirhan were a bit worried at first, but after hearing Lin Yi's domineering words, they chose to stay silent. After a few words, Lin Yi transformed into his primordial spirit state and directly flew to the sea. Chapter 5724. Very good. You didn't play any tricks, did you? Now drive straight to the east. I will inform you when the time comes. Lin Yi didn't find anything with his divine sense. The other party should be observing him through the satellite, right? If that was the case, then Lin Yi really didn't have any other way. Following the other party's instructions, he kept driving east, and after half an hour, he was asked to keep driving south, then west, and then north again. This was directly going around in a circle back to the original point. Knowing that the center was making him go around in circles, Lin Yi didn't take it to heart. These child's tricks were all within his expectations. You're almost out of gas, right? 10 nautical miles south. There is a mobile refueling ship on the sea. You can go there and refuel. The center was quite considerate, calculating that Lin Yi's gas was almost out, and even pointed him to refuel. Lin Yi said coldly, "How long do I have to walk on the sea? When can I trade?" "Hee, you're out of patience? Don't worry, go refuel first." After the other party finished speaking, he hung up the phone, and Lin Yi could only go refuel first. In the central holy region, at the bottom of the sea, Lan Xiaoru didn't come up with a feasible plan to deal with Lin Yi, because no matter how she thought, in the end, it seemed that there was no way to kill Lin Yi's primordial spirit. Letting Lin Yi take a walk on the sea at the beginning was really to wear down Lin Yi's patience and drive, but in the end, it became something that had no choice, because the action plan against Lin Yi couldn't be established. How's Xue Jianfeng's condition? Lan Xiaoru contacted the laboratory and asked. Xue Jianfeng was the strongest means that could threaten Lin Yi now. If Xue Jianfeng could succeed, then they would have more confidence in dealing with Lin Yi. The bespectacled doctor shook his head and said, "There are no side effects from the injection, but the effect is worse than expected, less than 1/10 of the original estimate. Although it can heal itself, the speed is quite slow, and it can't play a decisive role in a battle." What is going on? What is the problem? Lan Xiaoru resisted the urge to roar in anger. It was such a good plan, but the execution was full of loopholes. She was about to go crazy. "I've asked Xiaolong to take a look. Perhaps there's something wrong with Dr. Kang's formula." Xiaolong knocked on the door, just as the doctor finished speaking. Xiaolong nodded after taking a closer look. "This recipe has been altered. It's not the original recipe of House Kong. Change it back immediately and continue the experiment." After Lan Xiaoru finished speaking, she forcefully cut off the video communication, rubbed her forehead, and sat down. It seemed that Lin Yi's stroll on the sea would have to continue. However, Lin Yi had a lot of patience. It didn't matter if he spent a little more time. He would just take it as watching the scenery. While Lin Yi was cruising on the sea, Dr. Glasses had begun the development of a new potion. Lin Yi did not make many changes. After all, it was impossible for him to make changes in the wrong direction. The technicians in the center were not fools. They might not be able to tell if the potion was weak, but if there was a problem, they wouldn't use it directly. So the doctor's previous efforts were not in vain. He only made some minor adjustments to the original potion, and it became a new reagent. The materials needed for the potion were precious, but there were spares in the warehouse. In less than half an hour, the new potion was ready. Xue Jianfeng, the previous potion had some flaws, but it should be fine this time. When your genes completely fuse with the potion, you'll be able to recover from the damage you received in battle. That way, you'll have an immortal body. The doctor was afraid that Xue Jianfeng would have other thoughts. so he comforted him with a rare smile. Hearing the words, immortal body, excited Xue Jianfeng. This was the best chance for him to suppress Lin Yi. Of course, he wouldn't give it up. He nodded firmly. Doctor, give me the injection. I'm ready. The doctor nodded with satisfaction and didn't say anything else. He directly pushed the potion in the syringe into Xue Jianfeng's arm. Xue Jianfeng wasn't worried at all because the first injection didn't have any adverse reactions, which meant that the safety of the potion was still very high. In particular, the healing speed of the wound was indeed several times faster than before. So, Xue Jianfeng wasn't worried about the second injection, but he was looking forward to it. After the potion completely entered Xue Jianfeng's body, there was no abnormality at first. After about 10 seconds, Xue Jianfeng suddenly twitched violently. Then his head tilted, and he passed out completely. The doctor was shocked. Xue Jianfeng was now not only a qualified test subject, but he was also the strongest trump card they used to deal with Lin Yi. If something went wrong now, Lan Xiaoru probably wouldn't forgive him. Hurry up and report the status. What's going on? The doctor rushed forward. While checking Xue Jianfeng's physical condition, he shouted orders to the assistants around him. The assistants didn't wait for the doctor to finish and had already started working. After all, this kind of situation often happened in the laboratory. They didn't know the importance of Xue Jianfeng, so they weren't as nervous as the doctor. Heartbeat data is normal, blood pressure is normal, cell activity has increased by 800%, and it's still increasing. Thinking curve is smooth, and he's in a deep coma. An assistant quickly summarized the various indicators to the doctor so that he could grasp Xue Jianfeng's real-time situation immediately. The doctor was instantly relieved. After a careful check, he straightened his back and said, "It's okay. He should be in the process of gene fusion, which is why this happened. He'll probably wake up soon. You guys observe him closely and report to me immediately if there's any abnormality." "Yes, doctor," the assistants answered in unison and then continued with the work they were doing. The doctor wiped the sweat off his forehead and then connected to Lan Xiaoru's video call. "Miss Lan, the new potion has been successfully developed. It's been injected into Xue Jianfeng. Initially, it seems that the situation is still relatively stable, but we can only be sure after Xue Jianfeng wakes up." Chapter 5725. "Okay, I'll inform them right away." The doctor didn't waste any time and called Dafeng Bro after he cut off the communication with Lan Xiaoru. He was together with Chen Dongcheng and Zhao Long, so he informed them as well. 3 minutes later, everyone was gathered in the meeting room. Lan Xiaoru went straight to the point. Everyone here can be considered the backbone of our center. Right now, we need to get rid of Lin, a troublesome enemy. You're all familiar with him, and I want to know if anyone can provide any effective methods." They all looked at each other and didn't speak for a while. If Lin Yi was easy to deal with, he would have died hundreds of times already. Why would they need to discuss this? Plus, Dafeng Bro was Lin Yi's spy, and Chen Dongcheng was starting to side with Lin Yi. Even if he thought of something, he wouldn't say it easily. As for Zhao Long, he and Lin Yi were people from two different worlds. The difference was too big, and he didn't dare to say anything even if he wanted to. Lan Xiaoru waited for more than a minute, and seeing that no one was willing to speak, she pointed at Chen Dongcheng. "Old Chen, you're close to Lin Yi in terms of strength, and you've dealt with him the most. You should be the one who understands Lin Yi the most. You go first." Chen Dongcheng scratched the back of his head and pretended to be dumb. "I don't know. Every time I meet Lin Yi, I'm always the one at a disadvantage. And Lin Yi never looks like he's serious. So, if we're talking about understanding, I'm about the same as everyone else. Lan Xiaoru froze. What he said made sense, but Chen Dongqing said that he was useless in front of his superior. It seemed like he didn't care about his superior's feelings at all. Putting a piece of trash in an important position meant that there was something wrong with his superior's judgment. The doctor coughed and changed the topic. Miss Lan, Lin Yi is only a primordial spirit now, not his real body. So his combat strength is definitely not as strong as his real body. We'll think of a way slowly, and we'll be able to find his weakness eventually. Unfortunately, we don't have much time to slowly think of a solution. Lan Xiaoru snorted. She couldn't keep leaving Lin Yi to go in circles on the sea. If Lin Yi lost his patience and went straight back to Heaven Stage Island, wouldn't all her plans be for naught? That. Miss Lan, Dr. Glasses, can I say something? Xiaolong asked weakly, raising his hand. He was a dispensable existence here, and no one cared about him. Even if he wanted to speak, he had to ask for Xiaoru's permission first. Lan Xiaoru glanced at Xiaolong and waved her hand casually. Speak. Xiaolong was suddenly excited. He pinched the knot of his tie and coughed lightly. It's like this, my cousin Kong Mingming, Miss Lan, you know him. He's a refiner. And I seem to have heard him mention that a normal primordial spirit is very afraid of refining fire. Since the doctor said that Lin Yi is now a primordial spirit, then can we start from this aspect? Maybe we'll be able to get rid of this annoying bastard. The doctor nodded. That's a good idea. Using refining fire to deal with primordial spirits is the most suitable, but there doesn't seem to be any refiners in the base, so we can't deal with Lin Yi in a short time. Maybe we can use artificial fire to replace it. Chen Dongqing suddenly objected. I don't think that's a good idea. Lin Yi is an elixir refiner himself, and many people know that he has used elixir fire many times in the small world of the immemorial era. If he was really afraid of elixir fire, why would he still use it? Dafeng Bro seized the opportunity and quickly added, Yes, we only have one chance, and we can't be careless. If refining fire doesn't pose a threat to Lin Yi, we'll be in big trouble here. So we must be careful. Lan Xiaoru nodded. You're all right, but this is indeed a feasible method. Dr. Glasses, refining fire may not be of much use to Lin Yi, but you can use the characteristics of refining fire to develop artificial fire, and it might have a miraculous effect. Miss Lan is so wise, but since Lin Yi is so powerful, I think that since we're going to develop artificial fire, we might as well develop a super fire, in case it's not powerful enough and Lin Yi escapes. Xiaolong flattered Lan Xiaoru a little, and then put forward his own idea. He was the same as Kong Mingming, wishing that Lin Yi would die quickly. Since there was such an opportunity, of course, he would use it as viciously as possible. Lan Xiaoru immediately made the decision. That's settled, Dr. Glasses. I'll leave this matter to you. Before Xue Jianfeng wakes up, we must develop the super fire. Lin Yi's patience is probably wearing thin. Okay, I'll do it right away. The doctor agreed without hesitation, and then got up and went back to the lab without saying goodbye. Although the super fire was a little difficult, it was much easier than making medicine. The doctor had a plan in mind, and when he went out, a simple design had already been formed. The corner of Chen Dongqing's mouth twitched, thinking to himself, Lin Yi, I can only help you up to this point. If you die in their hands, I won't have to make a choice. As for the Comte de Fong Bro, he was actually very anxious. If he could contact Lin Yi, he would risk his life to inform Lin Yi. Unfortunately, in this base, de Fong Bro had no way of contacting Lin Yi. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was still going for a spin on the sea, but he wasn't that stupid. He wasn't going to do anything and let the people in the center toy with him. After 2 laps, Lin Yi realized that no matter where he went, he was always going in a circle or a square, not deviating from his course at all. What was the intention of the center doing this? Or the location of the center's base was actually nearby? With this speculation, Lin Yi simply concentrated his divine sense in one direction. In this way, the accuracy and linear detection length were far from comparable to the previous range detection. Unfortunately, Lin Yi didn't find anything even after scanning the area in 4 different directions. Could it be some divine sense shielding prop? If that's the case, it should also be able to find the blank spots in the divine sense, right? Lin Yi murmured in doubt, and suddenly he had a flash of inspiration. At the bottom of the sea. Chapter 57:26. With this idea in mind, Lin Yi immediately shifted his divine sense to the bottom of the sea. After a while, he really found the central sanctuary hidden under the trench. It's really at the bottom of the sea. They're really well hidden. If it weren't for my powerful divine sense, I might not have been able to find them. Lin Yi said with a sneer. He was already thinking about how to sneak into the trench without anyone noticing. Now, Lin Yi was sure that the center must be using satellite positioning to observe him. Once Lin Yi left the yacht, he would be discovered by the center immediately. If he wanted to sneak into the bottom of the sea without alerting the other party, he had to deceive the satellite in the sky. Although Lin Yi was powerful, he had no way of destroying the satellite in space at the moment. Third cloud dragon appearance. Lin Yi only needed a little thought to find a way. The third cloud dragon appearance was originally a martial arts technique of the Green Cloud sect. It could allow people to continuously move in the air without the help of external forces. At the same time, it would leave behind a phantom image that was enough to pass off as the real thing. In the current situation, Lin Yi did not need the complete third cloud dragon appearance. He only needed to leave a phantom image to mislead the satellite. Moreover, it did not need too much time. It was enough for him to enter the underwater base. Copying and modifying martial arts techniques was a piece of cake for Lin Yi. What's more, the third cloud dragon appearance was originally something of the Green Cloud sect. Lin Yi completed the modification in a breath's time. After setting the yacht to autopilot, Lin Yi directly launched the modified version of the third cloud dragon appearance. A realistic phantom image sat in the cockpit, while his real body entered the sea through displacement. To enter the central sanctuary, one had to dive more than a kilometer. For ordinary people, they would have been crushed by the terrifying water pressure. However, Lin Yi did not care at all. The moment he entered the water, he transformed into the primordial spirit state and completely ignored the resistance of the sea. The phantom image on the yacht would dissipate in a few minutes. Lin Yi had to approach the central sanctuary and enter it during this time. Fortunately, the primordial spirit state was extremely fast. In less than a minute, it had already appeared above the central sanctuary. It's Lin Yi. The central sanctuary's alarm system suddenly issued a sharp alarm, and a guy on duty in the monitoring room actually discovered Lin Yi's figure. If he had been a few minutes later, the base would have been infiltrated by Lin Yi. At the same time as the alarm sounded, a transparent protective film appeared above the trench. Lin Yi wanted to use his primordial spirit to pass through the protective armor, but it was a little too late. He hit the protective film and was bounced back. What is it? Even my soul can't pass through it, but it doesn't matter. Since the infiltration has failed, I'll just attack them head-on. Lin Yi's face turned cold. He flipped his palms, and in the center of his palms were 2 perfect super pill firebombs. Boom, boom. 2 huge explosions in a row caused the entire seabed to be involved in a huge whirlpool of water and fire. Lin Yi did not dare to get too close to this place. After throwing out the super pill firebombs, he turned into a primordial spirit and quickly retreated several nautical miles. The violent explosion at a depth of a kilometer formed a huge wave on the surface of the sea. It took a few minutes before it gradually subsided. The yacht that Lin Yi had been on was directly overturned and directly turned into floating debris in the sea. When the aftermath of the explosion subsided slightly, Lin Yi appeared above the trench again. However, what made him helpless was that the protective film was still undamaged under the attack of the 2 super pill firebombs. It was indeed a high-tech thing that could block Lin Yi's primordial spirit state. The strength of its defense was simply incredible. Since Lin Yi had developed the super pill firebomb, this was the first time he had returned without success. Back in the endless sea of the ancient Jianghu, a super pill firebomb could kill a large number of sea monsters in seconds. Ha 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 ha, too awesome. Dr. Glasses, this base of yours is too awesome. Lin Yi, that pretentious head, has become an idiot this time. Xiaolong saw this scene on the monitor, and his originally frightened emotions immediately turned into excitement. He couldn't help but laugh and dance, looking completely crazy. Glasses also laughed dryly a few times. To be honest, Lin Yi's attack really scared him. This protective film was his proudest work, but just now Lin Yi had almost reached the limit of the protective film. The power output in that instant was no less than the explosion of 2 hydrogen bombs. Lan Xiaoru also came to the Glasses lab and asked with a serious expression, "Dr. Glasses, how is the research on the super pill firebomb?" Chen Dongcheng and the others all looked at the Glasses. This was the question they were most concerned about. Of course, everyone's mood was different. Xiaolong definitely wanted to attack immediately and kill Lin Yi directly. Dafeng Bro, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. As for Chen Dongcheng, it was a bit complicated. He didn't know which one was more hopeful. The bespectacled doctor's hands moved back and forth on the control panel rapidly, even leaving a series of afterimages behind. However, it was not a problem for him to multitask, so he could still find the time to reply. Almost there. It'll be done in less than 2 or 3 minutes. He paused for a moment. If our protective film can last for another 2 or 3 minutes, Xiaolong, who had been laughing nonstop, froze. He thought that the protective film wouldn't have any problems, but from the looks of it, it wouldn't last more than 2 or 3 minutes. Chen Dongqing looked at the monitor, agreeing with the Glasses' deduction. He didn't know where the limit of the protective film was, but he could sense that the attack just now had shaken the film. Now that Lin Yi had put his hands together and condensed a super pill firebomb that was bigger than the previous 2 combined, it was hard to say whether or not it would break through the protective film. Lan Xiaoru narrowed her eyes and ordered, "Send all the instantaneous energy into the protective film. We can't let Lin Yi in so easily." The so-called instantaneous energy was all the energy in a short period of time to supply the protective film. If it was used like this for a long time, the oxygen supply system in the base would be paralyzed, so it couldn't be used like this all the time. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.